Hello everyone, I'm the Army of Otters, and today we have a special 3-hour compilation of my series, The Unexplored Capital Wasteland. A lot of you request this because you want to use it for studying, or just to watch, or to use during settlement building, playing Minecraft, or whatever video game you want to play, just as background noise of course, and that is perfectly okay. During the course of this video, we'll be exploring random locations across the Capital Wasteland. We'll be finding out their purpose, good loots, finding out some of the lore and history, and just other interesting facts. So please sit back, relax, pop open a cold bottle of Nuka-Cola, and enjoy. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out the National Guard Depot, which is a very famous location within Fallout 3 because this is where we can find the experimental MIRV. However, in order to get the experimental MIRV and get into the inner vault, we first need to collect 5 tapes. These are known as the Keller family transcripts, which tell a story about a pre-war family that failed to get into a Vault-Tec vault, but they were able to get their way into an underground bunker at the National Guard Depot. At the beginning of this video, I'll quickly show where to find these 5 tapes in case you want to go here yourself, and then after that we'll go into the actual National Guard Depot. If you want to listen to the tapes, please stay tuned to the end of the video, or use the timestamps provided in the description. The first tape is located just west of Arafu and north of the VAPL-58 power station, right in the middle at a location known as the Pylon Shack, which I've already talked about, and I've already recovered the transcripts, but I'll show you still where you can find them. Now, when I was here, there was this random mushroom cloud explosion from this car. I got attacked by this Yaogwai, and when I approached, I found this slaver may have detonated it for some reason, and there was a dead Brahmin. I have no clue what is happening here, but yeah, I killed that slaver. How dare you mess with a poor Brahmin? Anyways, from the power station, you just want to go straight north. You just want to follow these electrical lines, and eventually, well, you're going to find a Yaogwai maybe, but eventually you're going to find this shack, or like little makeshift camp underneath the power pylon. And on this shelf here, you will find the transcript. There's also a very hard locked footlocker, which I could not open in the previous video, but now I can. And there's some, well, decent loot inside of it. And the next tape is located at Hallowed Moor Cemetery, which I've already talked about recently. So I actually still have the footage of me picking up the transcript. It's literally right here on the podium as you enter the church. Really easy. Then the next one is at Grizzly Diner, as you can see here, in the eastern part of the map, just south of Chastdairy Acres. And inside you're going to be attacked by raiders, even if I already killed them once. Again, I've covered this place before, but yeah, there was raiders once again. So just take out the raiders, and then the transcript will be on this desk here next to these whiskey bottles. And the next tape is going to be located at Sniper Shack, which is unmarked, and when you come to the marked location here, you'll probably be attacked by Enclave, so be ready for a bit of a fight. Anyways, here you can see Rock Breaker's Last Gas, which is this Red Rocket truck stop. And then if we just follow this path and go up on the mountain right next to the gas stop, we can find the Sniper Shack. And inside there are these 2 pet rad roaches. They will respawn. As you can see, they respawned after I killed them. And then the transcript will be on this workbench. Now, the next one will be at the Anchorage War Memorial, right along the Potomac River near the Super Duper Mart. And this one might be guarded by a super mutant overlord, depending on your level. I had to deal with the overlord. It took me a bit of time, but eventually we were able to kill him, but not before accidentally blowing up that truck. And then the transcript will be right here next to the ham radio inside of the tent. There also might be a captured civilian in there. And here you can see the location of the National Guard Depot right on the edge of the downtown DC area. And it's in the actual, like, overworld in the wasteland. There's no loading screen to get here. So you can just walk straight here from Vault 101 if you wanted. But yeah, I would not recommend that because there are going to be a lot of high-leveled enemies inside of the facility. But as you approach, you're going to find these trucks, these like army trucks parked here near the depot, obviously probably used to transport military goods around the Washington, D.C. area. Now, as you approach, you're going to find these 2 Protectrons just right here outside guarding it, but yeah, pretty easy to deal with, so just take them out. Now, if we go over here to the east, we will find a lone raider. I have no idea why he is over here, but yeah, just be aware he is over here. And then Dogmeat and I really kind of gave him a brutal death animation. And also worth mentioning, over here on this pile of debris, we can easily jump over it, even in the base game. I'm playing on Xbox right now, so as you can see, you can just get over this debris, and this is a really easy way to escape Fallout 3's map. However, there'll still be that, like, world barrier that prevents you from going out of Fallout 3's box. You cannot get past that unless you're on PC, quite unfortunately, but you can use this to explore the entire deloaded downtown Washington, D.C. area, which is kind of nifty if you're into glitches and that kind of stuff. As you can see here, there's the Capitol building, and you can even make your way over to the Washington Monument, which of course is a very prominent feature of Fallout 3, so you can see what it looks like up close, all deloaded and stuff. Pretty glitchy. But besides that, there is not a whole lot out here, but you can play around with it, have fun. Now, also, if we go back to the depot, we can find these tables, an assault rifle, and a first aid box just to the west of the depot, and then we will go inside. And once inside, you're going to encounter a lot of robots who are still defending this depot from the threat of communism. But immediately as we enter, you can find a lunchbox in one of the cubicles. Also, there's some toy cars, so I guess one of the former employees was really bored at his desk job. But as we go in, I tried to sneak my way because I knew there was going to be a lot of enemies, like this sentry bot, and honestly, I had a ton of energy cells, so I just started using my plasma pistol and just spamming the heck out of it. Now, on the second floor, immediately, we can find 2 pre-war books, so make sure you pick them up. Pretty important later on, for me at least. But anyways, as we continue our way through, I found this Mr. Gutsy, so we took him out as well. Pretty easy, actually, the Mr. Gutsy's. The sentry bots, though, are bullet sponges. But eventually, you can find this terminal, which will deactivate turrets in this, at least, starting area. So it's up to you if you want to use it or not. I decided not to use it, just simply to get more XP, but I hacked it for the XP, just trying to maximize my XP in this place. But eventually you'll find this like barracks area, or maybe it's like a jail cell? Not sure, but anyways, there's some bunk beds, there's like bar doors, and a toilet, so perhaps it was a jail cell. We can also find some other just debris. There's a box with a knife in it, don't know what was going on there. But besides that, there isn't a whole lot in the basement. Now, there is a locked door, but we cannot access that yet. So we'll keep making our way through the facility on the second floor. Eventually, you'll find a little back area, and there's going to be some turrets, and also a sentry bot will probably come out and attack you, just like it attacked me. But just kind of take out the enemies, be slow and patient, and you shouldn't have too much trouble. Now, in the next room, in this area here, this room is just kind of a waste. You do not want to fall down there because you'll have to retrace all of your steps to get back here. And also in this wide open room, make sure not to fall down all the way to the basement. Otherwise, you'll have to retrace all of your steps. But in here, just kind of kill the sentry bots or whatever enemies you have in here, and just make your way through. Now, we want to get to that floor right above us, but we can't do that from here. We have to go all the way around, which is kind of annoying, but there will be a lot of loot and XP along the way. Now, in the next section, we're going to find a lot of cubicles, and mostly they have nothing of interest for us, so just kind of make your way. Sometimes they might have toy cars or some ammunition, so, you can look around. Now, next there was the sentry bot that came out and fought me and dog meat, but, we took care of it. I had this really annoying turret. I don't know why the plasma pistol wouldn't hit it. Switched to my hunting rifle, and yeah, we were able to get it. And there's also this first aid box in this hallway, and this door here on the far east side is the biggest door of interest to us. It just leads upstairs to this lone room. Inside of here, we can find some pre-war books on the shelf, as you can see here. An average locked safe with random loot inside. Honestly, the loot was not very good for me. There's a box of sugar bombs, and on the table, when you enter, I missed it initially, but there's a copy of Tales of a Junktown Jerky Vendor. So make sure you collect everything. Also, there's a locked cabinet, which had an assault rifle and some ammunition inside of it. Now, going back to that main hallway where we fought that turret initially, there is the turret control terminal inside here, but I destroyed the turret, so kind of pointless. Now, as you keep going, eventually you're going to find the shooting range, and in here you can find a lot of weapons and ammunition, so you can take what you want and then repair, of course. And in the next area, we'll find some restrooms and a first aid box. The first aid box is the only thing of interest in this area. But as we go to the shooting range, there's going to be a couple of sentry bots and maybe a robo brain. So make sure you use pulse grenades if you have them. Might make your life a little bit easier. Earlier I forgot to say, but in the same room with the turret terminal, you can find a box full of pulse grenades. Either way, this shooting range area is actually much easier than I thought it was going to be, and as soon as I killed that one sentry bot, I leveled up. Then after that, me and Dogmeat were just kind of like dancing around, and on the shelves and stuff, you can find various ammo. And obviously you want to loot the sentry bots to see what they have. You also might find a few ammo boxes inside of the shooting range area. Don't know why there'd be ammo boxes out there, but yeah, you can definitely pick them up. As we go into the next room, there is a shelf on your left with some ammo crates. And as you look to your right here, you'll find a lot of medical supplies, so definitely make sure you loot these boxes and see what you find. After that, we can move on to the next section, the depot offices. And quite honestly, in here, the first section at least, there isn't a whole lot besides enemies. There are 2 turrets and a protectron above you that might be a bit difficult, but we can pick an average lock door, and there's an average lock terminal, which of course we have to hack, but that will disable the turrets above you, making this fight much, much easier. Now, this room is kind of symmetrical, 2 sides filled with cubicles, and on the other side, opposite from the entrance, you will find a sentry bot. There's also a grenade box in one of the cubicles with pulse grenades. But yeah, I just got above the sentry bot, and actually it was really easy to kill it because it didn't know where we were. Now we're going to come to this next room, and this room has some like these weird statues. I don't know what these are supposed to be, but interesting choice of decor, that is for sure, for the US military. But anyways, as we go on to up these stairs and around the corner, you're going to find a robo brain and also this sentry bot. Go ahead and take them out. Now this room is going to be filled with radiation, but it's very low. If you want to avoid any radiation, just pop a Rad-X and it shouldn't be much of a problem. Now on this table here, you will find an enlarged copy of Duck and Cover. And the reason I say enlarged, for whatever reason, the texture is bigger than normal. That's of interest to you, you can keep it, but I just read it because I want the skill point. But then after that, we have to make our way to the second floor via this collapsed section of the floor. Just come up, there's going to be a sentry bot. Now also up here we can find some pre-war books. I had a little bit trouble locating them, probably because of an explosion from the missile that the sentry bot launched. But basically on the eastern side of the room on the second floor, you're going to find these shelves on this middle pillar, and the pre-war books will be on the eastern side of the pillar. There was still one on the shelf, but the other 2 got knocked off, so I just had to kind of jump around, and eventually I was able to find it. Now, all this time you will be taking radiation damage, but again, it is quite low. After this, there will be a door, and this door will take us back out to the central area. Do not jump down right away. Make sure you get this electrical switch, and this will open the bunker, the vault area of the National Depot. Now, there will be a sentry bot that comes out, so just take him out. Pretty easy. Well, maybe if he's not hiding, but yeah, pretty easy. And then once you're inside, you want to hit this switch here, and this will lower the ramp so you can proceed into the vault. Or its actual name is the National Guard Armory. And once we're inside, this utility door doesn't open. You're going to have to hit this electrical switch. And in this first room, you're going to find a lot of pretty decent loot, some grenades, mines, missiles, ammunition, stim packs. So just take whatever you need. And then also on the shelf here, we can find a bobblehead for a small gun, so really good. And then we can find the bunker access terminal. Again, in order to access this terminal, you have to find all 5 of the Keller family tapes. And as we come inside, there will be a glowing one. I recommend attacking him immediately, because if he does his little burst thing where he shoots radiation everywhere, he might send some of the valuable loot flying around, which actually happened to me, and I couldn't find one of the mini nukes. Now here we can find the experimental MIRV, a copy of US 30 flamethrower recipes, and then 5 mini nukes. Of course, the experimental MIRV is a unique variant of the Fat Man that launches 8 mini nukes at once. It's kind of absurd and doesn't have much practical use, but it's really fun to use. There's also various loot on the shelves and stuff, like a bottle cap mine. And in the very back, you can find 4 bodies, including the glowing one. I don't know if this is the Keller family, but yeah, I would imagine that this is the Keller family, and that they didn't make it very long after the bombs fell. But with the experimental MIRV, I decided to have some fun, and this terrible person decided to give me a free Nuka-Cola. Who the heck would do that? Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed that little montage. Now, this is a location that is very nostalgic for me. I remember when I was much younger, visiting here for the first time and discovering the experimental MIRV, one of my favorite weapons in all of Fallout, just because of how absurd it really is. Even though it's not really practical, it is quite fun to mess around with, and I'll forever be happy that Bethesda put it in the game. Alright guys, what do you think of the experimental MIRV? What do you guys think of the National Guard Depot? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you're here for the audio tapes and you want to hear the Keller family's experience, well, here you are. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time.
Tina, it's me, your brother, Alex. Mom would kill me if she knew I was contacting you, but she's being an impossible bitch right now. You have to come home. Do you understand me? This thing with China, it's not going away. We're gonna try and get into one of those vaults. If that doesn't work, well, I have a backup plan. There's this secure bunker, another sort of vault, inside the National Guard Depot, and... Look, no matter what it takes, the whole damn Keller family's gonna ride this storm out, but you've got to get your ass home. Now!
Paul, it's me, Tina. I heard back from my sister Candace. We couldn't get into a vault. 101, 87, didn't matter. All full to capacity. But my brother Alex is a soldier, and he sort of stole the passcode for a secure army bunker. He did it for the family, but they caught him. Before they took him into custody, Alex, he sent us each one number of the 4-digit code. That way we all have to be together to get in. He gave me number 5, the day of my birth. So, I guess what I'm saying is, I'm still leaving. It's been fun. Kind of. Oh, and I'm not pregnant, so no worries.
Mom, it's Candace! Oh my god, it's really happening! I can see the cloud! It's so big! Mom, I'm so scared! I'm heading to the vault now. I'll do whatever I can to get inside. My number of the passcode was 7, right?
Ralphie, son! This is your father! We can't get into the goddamn vault without you! Get your ass over here now! My 4 is useless without you, boy!
Candace, it's Ralph. Tell Dad there's no way in hell I'm spending nuclear Armageddon trapped with him in a fucking closet. You can have my number. It's 6. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got a mushroom cloud to walk into. Have a happy Holocaust.
For whatever reason, the outside of maps have always been quite interesting to me. I remember when I was a kid playing Tony Hawk's Underground 2 and finding glitches to get outside of the map. Now, there was really nothing out there, and yeah, it was just kind of boring, but for some reason as a kid, I quite enjoyed it, and I also thought it was a little bit creepy. This continued when I was playing Halo 2 and Halo 3, finding numerous ways to get outside of the map. I just found it really interesting, but there's always been something eerie about it. And honestly, I owe a lot of my success on the Unexplored Mojave to Dr. Bosch, who released an AGR 2 years ago that kind of took the internet by storm. And one of the highlights of the Unexplored Mojave was when Dr. Bosch posted a comment. Really freaking cool. And for a while now, many of you have been requesting a similar video on Fallout 3. Now this video will be going outside of the capital wasteland, but it was not nearly as simple as Fallout New Vegas. So this will detail my journey just trying to find a way outside of the capital wasteland, digging through old YouTube videos and old game facts forums, whatever it might be. Now during my time outside of the capital wasteland, I had one of my most spine-chilling moments outside of a map. So the first glitch that we will look at is the Megaton exit glitch, and I'm sure this is the most well-known glitch. By going to the top of Lucas Sims' house, which is pretty easy to do, you can easily get outside of the map. So just make your way to the top, and once we're here, we're gonna jump on this left railing, as you can see here. Pretty easy, but you might fall off, so you might want to save once you're here. But then you want to jump up on this little pipe, and from here just kind of, you know, jump, spam the jump button, and eventually you get up on top of the house. From here you definitely want to save because, well, I fell and broke my legs once. So yeah, you want to not do that. But you want to kind of jump over the fence just barely, and then you'll be floating on the other side. Hug the wall, and you can come over here and talk to Stockholm, who has some pretty funny dialogue.
The more time I spend talking to you, the less I'm spending watching for raiders. How the hell did you get up here anyway?
Now from here you can jump down outside of Megaton, avoiding the load screen, and you'll just see a really funny version of Megaton and the wasteland. As you can see, the developers did not develop the area outside of it, which is kind of interesting actually, and we'll talk about why later. But for now, yeah, you can just kind of walk away and you can see this really weird picture of Megaton, and then you can walk on this floating piece of land where you're just like on a leap of fate. But for whatever reason, there is a lot of grass, and you can follow this grass endlessly. I followed for maybe 10 minutes or so, and yeah, it just continues and continues and continues, and it even has hills and stuff, which I thought was quite interesting. Don't know why it's here, don't know what purpose it is, don't know why it's designed like this, but thought it was kind of interesting. Now, the next glitch I found a couple of YouTube videos about and some really old GameFAQs forums about. It's at the Statesman Hotel. Once you are at the very top of it by this broken pillar, you can jump on this pillar, jump across this gap, jump up over this fence, and you'll be getting outside of the map. Now, one thing that's important for me is I want to utilize glitches. I didn't want to use console commands to get outside of the map just because, well, that kind of just destroys the fun of it. So from up here, you just jump on this part of the roof. It's very important to do it at that corner, as you saw me do. And from here, you can easily jump over this wall, and you'll fall to your death. But if you didn't know, in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, if you save just before hitting the ground and reload, it resets your momentum so you'll survive. And from here, the entire wasteland is your oyster. However, it is a de-loaded wasteland because the Statesman Hotel's roof is a separate, load area. But this brings me to my point. It's weird that Megaton does not sit in this kind of area as well. Why is Megaton so, isolated, but this one has so much things to see? Now, of course, you want to see buildings and stuff from the Statesman Hotel, but why is there a ground? Why can we walk around? I just think it's kind of weird. You can walk to the Capitol building, but truthfully, there's not a whole lot there. You can walk all the way to the Washington Monument, and we just get a really, really low-res version of it. You can kind of go inside, and from the inside, we get this kind of interesting and creepy view of the Capitol building. Something else that is kind of eerie about this deloaded version is there's no ambient sounds. I don't know why that is, but yeah, there's no wind, there was no music playing, it was just kind of lonely out here. I started heading to the south towards Rivet City, and I found this, very low-res, half-buried version of Rivet City. So, yeah, kind of disappointing, but obviously, yeah, why would they put any effort into this? Why is it even here at all? I don't know. I don't think you can see it from the Statesman Hotel, but yeah, it's interesting. Of course, you can walk inside because nothing in this deloaded area has hit detection except for the ground itself. But yeah, kind of interesting. There's also wires on the other side. Why? I don't know. Now, off in the distance to the east, I saw these poles coming out of the ground. I was interested in that. And also there was some kind of thing stuck in the ground on the left side of this building. So that piqued my interest. I came all the way over here. Now, those poles were just a deloaded texture of a building. But for some reason, yeah, there are these fully buried houses or buildings here. I don't know exactly what they are or why they're here, but yeah, kind of interesting, also kind of creepy, but yeah, it's there. Now from here, I decided to go as far east as I could, and I went as far as I could, but eventually I just had to stop. I was walking for almost maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and yeah, my controller died. I was walking for so long. So yeah, it was quite a long journey. And eventually the world will disappear, but you'll just keep loading new world, and eventually the world behind you disappears. So after this, I decided to explore the other direction, and I decided to go kind of west, and I found this really deloaded, like, rocket, maybe from a playground. And then there's a lot of buildings and stuff. Obviously, we're in the DC area still, but yeah, nothing has hit detection. So at this point, I was getting a little bit kind of bored. It was like just nothing was out here. I decided to make my way towards Megaton to see what I could find. And to my surprise, a lot of the buildings are actually pretty accurate with the world map. Now, it is a little bit off, it's not exact, but it is interesting that it is fairly accurate. And well, to my surprise, Megaton was here, or well, a really deloaded kind of lazy version of Megaton. But yeah, we can see the outer walls, and even inside there's like these like really low detail buildings, and you can see the vague outline of Megaton. I thought it was really cool and really interesting that it's here. But as you can see, the location here is a little bit west to the actual Megaton. But yeah, it's kind of cool that it's out here nonetheless. Now, after this, I made my way towards Springfield, and you can actually kind of make out Springfield here in this shot. Why is it all here? Well, I don't know, but it even has the red rocket stop, which I just thought was, well, very interesting and very cool. Now, after this, I was about ready to give up, but I decided I would make my way to Tenpenny Tower, and oh boy, was I in for a surprise. The silence just made it even more eerie. Normally, the Chinese radio beacon is a random encounter in Fallout 3, where you pick up a Chinese radio signal, and if you listen in, well, it plays a Chinese message. And if you follow the radio signal to where it gets stronger, you will find a dead Chinese pilot. But for whatever reason, there was no message on the radio, and as I got closer, the radio just went static. Honestly, this is probably the creepiest authentic experience I've had while outside of the map in any Fallout game. Nothing like this happened in Fallout New Vegas. And I also found it interesting that despite the fact I'm in a deloaded world, that this random encounter could still happen. Now, after this, I made my way towards Tenpenny Tower, my final goal, and yeah, there really isn't much here, just a low-res version of Tenpenny Tower. Now, from here, I wanted to find a real way outside of the world map, just like in Fallout New Vegas, in a non-deloaded world, the real capital wasteland. I found this really old, like early 2000s YouTube video, typical of the era, that showed a glitch. I couldn't find anything else about this glitch around, so I didn't have much hope for it. It is near the National Guard outpost, and involves this pile of rubble. For whatever reason, there's a lone raider here, as you saw earlier. Just thought I'd mention it, kind of interesting, but to my surprise, this glitch, well, it worked. It worked seamlessly. However, my sense of hope was quickly, well, put to rest. As I decided to come down from this rubble, I was immediately greeted with that all too familiar message. You cannot proceed in that direction. Please turn back. And this is where Fallout 3's map is, well, impossible. Bethesda literally put a box around the entire map, so even if you are in a glitched out area like this, you cannot escape. I did pick up the Ranger emergency frequency, so I figured that radio frequencies in Fallout 3 are determined by your position on the world map, which is why I picked up the Chinese signal earlier. But still an incredible moment nonetheless. And we already saw a lot of this, but these buildings and this Washington Monument are much higher quality than before, so this glitch has something of interest on its own merit. Also, it's just a lot lesser known, so I'm happy to show it. Additionally, the ground here has much better, well, hit detection because you actually go up on the mounds and stuff instead of just phasing through them and just being on a flat plane. Also, with this glitch, you can kind of toy around with the NPCs. I found this group of Enclave soldiers, and, well, they got pissed at me. They knew where I was, kind of. They knew I was in the building, at least, but They couldn't do anything about it, but I couldn't do anything about them. But this Death Claw decided to show up, and, well, they were trying to control it, obviously, but yeah, he decided to fuck up their shit, which was pretty amusing to watch, I must say. Man, such power. But then the Death Claw turned on me, and since his claws are so freaking huge, he can actually hit inside the building. So I decided to use a mini nuke and put us both out of our misery. From here, I decided I wanted to see what was out there, and many of you had been requesting this video, so I decided to break with tradition a little bit. Andreas here mentioned that he wanted to see it regardless, even if it meant using TCL or removing hit detection. However, using TCL does not get you past the invisible barrier that prevents you from leaving the map. It's kind of a separate barrier from the rest of the barriers within the game. And after actually trying to figure it out for a while, I finally figured out a way that worked, and this was through some trial and error and using game facts. Man, still coming in handy somehow. Anyways, if you go into your computer and you search for border region, you will find two things about a border region, and you want to turn these values to 0, as you can see here, and you want to turn the other one to 0. There are two things, so once you turn them, make sure you save the document. Just open it in Notepad like I did, save the document, and then exit. After this, though, you want to go to Properties, and you want to click on Read Only, Apply, and OK. Upon doing this, I could now leave the map, and it took me a lot longer than I would care to admit to figure all this out. I even tried using mods first, but none of the mods I used actually worked, so yeah, this is the only way out that I could find. But yeah, once we were out, and I increased my movement speed to make exploring it significantly easier. Now, the reason I came over to this part of the map near Tenpenny Tower was I wanted to explore or just look at this giant crater, perhaps the site of a nuclear detonation, I don't know, but it's always been something that I could see from far away, but could never reach. Now, I made my way to the southeast, and I found there was water outside of the map, which I thought was kind of interesting. Perhaps there's just a lake or a base water beneath the map, which probably makes up the Potomac River. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty cool. There's definitely no water in the Mojave Wasteland. And there's an even bigger lake further to the east. And by using this method, you can get a really good feel for how Bethesda built this world and the area surrounding it, just giving it a really nice aesthetic. You can find the train tracks over here and how they kind of hide it with the buildings for sections that, well, they don't need to add, obviously. And these are all of the buildings across from Rivet City. Of course, normally you can't go over here, but it was just somewhere I wanted to go since I was a kid when I first started playing Fallout 3, so hey, finally a dream come true, I guess. We visited the Capitol building once again, but yeah, it's just more of the same. Now, as I came over here, the only thing of interest that I found was there is a building that is collapsed, but you would never see it from the world. I don't know why, Bethesda would even put this texture here, but just thought I would show it because, well, I thought it was interesting. But a lot of destroyed buildings, obviously, meant mainly just for the player to look at and to feel the immersion of the post-apocalypse. Now, if you've ever been out of bounds in Fallout New Vegas, you know that the I-15 has no hit detection out of bounds. You just fall through it. To my surprise, the highway here outside of the map has hit detection. You can walk along it and, yeah, just have a party on it if you want. Now, the big thing I wanted to check out was these giant mountains to the west of the Capitol Wasteland. I don't know if these are the Blue Ridge Mountains or, the Appalachian Mountains or what they are, but that would be my guess. But basically, I decided to go see where they would go, and as I got towards the end, I found out they just continue getting higher and higher, and they just keep spawning and spawning and spawning as you get further. So this is kind of interesting, but eventually I reached the top. I'm going to call this Mount Everest, and I decided to start heading down west, going down the mountain. By this point, I figure I'm like near where Fallout 76 takes place, but I don't know. Anyways, I found this huge cliff, which I definitely don't remember in Fallout 76, and man, you fall for a really long time. Kind of freaking funny and freaking awesome. How about those diving skills? Now from here, you reach the Endless Sea. You find the same exact Endless Sea in Fallout New Vegas, and you will just swim and swim and swim and swim. I never found an end, Even swimming for so long, so fast, all sped up, there was no end in sight. And there you guys have it, outside of the capital wasteland. Now, honestly, there is a lot less of interest than in Fallout New Vegas. I don't know if that's due to Fallout New Vegas's rushed nature, or that had something to do with the way they developed these games, but either way, it was a really fun experience, and I learned a bit about how Fallout 3 works. And through it all, I had my creepiest experience outside of a Fallout map to date. Who knows what the future might hold, but I feel like this one will be hard to top. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching these videos. This has been such an incredible journey, and making these outside the map content is, well, very nostalgic for me now, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos or future locations, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the unexplored capital wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out the Overlook Drive In, a pretty small location, but get some really epic views from this area, truly an overlook. Unfortunately, there is no connection to the Overlook Hotel, the fictional hotel from Stephen King's The Shining, one of my favorite movies of all time. Seems like a big missed opportunity, especially considering this is a movie theater, but hey, I wasn't the designer. And here's the location on the world map, just west of Andale. Now, there really isn't a whole lot going on here. It's simply just a drive-in movie theater, which is pretty common in the Fallout universe, and it is now controlled by a small gang of raiders. And these raiders are probably a part of the gang located at the nearby Cliffside Cavern. We'll talk more about that location in a future video. Anyway, just go ahead and take out all of the raiders. With dog meat, it made things a lot easier. And eventually you can find the small little entry booth, and inside we can find some chems and healing items and also an ammunition crate, so make sure you look inside. Be really careful when fighting here because you might do this. Just a massive freaking explosion, definitely killed all the raiders, blew off my right leg as a result, and well, pretty epic explosion. Get a really massive chain explosion going on here, which is just epic. Now, there is a body hanging from the screen. I have no clue how the raiders managed to get it up there. Perhaps one of the raiders is telepathic, I have no idea. But there's also this death claw that I saw down below, and I just started raining missiles down upon him, and then he just ran away, and eventually he faded from my view, so I couldn't kill him. Well, I did actually kill him later. I ran down there and found him. But yeah, just be aware you might encounter a death claw or just some kind of leveled random enemy just underneath the drive-in. Alright, and I think that pretty much covers Overlook Drive-In. This is a pretty small location that is just a small raider camp. It's probably just marked in case you become enemies with the residents of Andale. It gives you a fast travel point that is near Andale. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any recommendations for future videos or future locations, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everybody, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out Cliffside Cavern, which is a small location kind of in the middle southern part of the map, just east of Tenpenny Tower, and near Overlook Drive In where we visited last time. Now, this location is not a place I have any recollection is, but I think it is pretty cool, and I had a lot of fun checking it out. It is kind of tucked away, kind of hidden, and very easy to miss, so it was really fun to explore and just check out, so let's jump on into it. Now, there is technically two entrances, and we'll talk about one of them later, but you need 75 lockpick to access that entrance, and it is a little difficult to find. However, the main entrance is marked on the map, and you just kind of follow this cliffside as you approach Tenpenny from the south, and you'll find it right here. There's some dead bodies and some tricycles. I don't know why there's tricycles. Perhaps the raiders come out here at midnight and just ride around in circles. At least that's what they do in my head. Anyways, as we go inside, we are greeted with a pretty horrific or amazing sight. we have a skull inside of a body that has some sticks coming out of it, holding up another skull with glowing eyes. Absolutely magical. And in this first room, there are going to be some raiders, pretty easy to kill, except when you snipe the stalagmites. Then you might just cause a cave-in. And then this raider here walked into their own trap, so definitely don't do that at home, kids. Anyways, in this first room, there will be this cabinet that had some ammunition in it, but as far as loot, not a whole lot. So we want to keep going further into the raider-infested cave. Eventually going to come to this very large open room. There's going to be a bunch of raiders in here. Immediately to your right, there's going to be 2 generators and a raider and a bottle of Nuka-Cola Quantum on this table. Now, as we continue further into this large room, eventually it kind of branches off to the west here, as you can see, to a smaller room with some tables and beds. There's going to be a few raiders inside of here. Just take them out like I did. As far as loot, there isn't a whole lot. There's some refrigerators filled with food. This one had some sugar bombs and Nuka-Cola and stuff. Also, there is a first aid box with some, well, random healing items inside. Now, from that western pocket, you can move up to the next level, but we're not quite finished on this first floor yet. If we continue further north, we're going to find this like little path, and if we go down, we're going to find another kind of part of the cave with a small raider camp. Be careful, one of the raiders has a missile launcher. He fired it at me, which sent some of the loot flying that I was after. So just be aware, you might want to kill him first, but luckily I was still able to find what I was looking for. On this bookshelf here beside the bed, you can find a copy of the Chinese Army Special Ops Training Manual. However, mine got blown behind, but not too big of a problem. I could squeeze my way behind the bookshelf and pick it up. Now, there's also some cabinets with ammunition and weapons and stuff, and inside the tent at the very back, we have a pre-war book, some more ammunition and stuff, and also a mini nuke on top of this hard lock safe. And there's 2 safes, one that is easy and one that is hard. So just open them up and see what random loot awaits for you inside. Then after this, we'll go back to that main room, and we can make our way to the second floor. Be aware of this grenade trap here. You can disarm both, obviously, if you want. Anyways, we'll make our way up to the second floor, and then we're going to kill the rest of these raiders. This raider's arm went flying. Just thought it was kind of funny. But there's some first aid boxes, ammunition boxes, frag mines, and stuff like that up here. Make sure you pick all of that up, and also make sure you tell Dogmeat he's a good boy. Now, as you continue along the upper portion of the cave, eventually the path branches off. You can go to the north, or you can go to the east. If you go to the east, there's going to be some frag mines, so watch out for those. And eventually this will lead you to a hard locked door. And this will lead you outside into the capital wasteland. And really, there's not much outside. We'll talk a little bit about outside and what's around. But yeah, you can pick it, and the entrance is just a little bit to the east of the main entrance. But we're not really interested in that for now. Now, there is a generator in here that blew up during the combat. Now, normally directly behind the generator on the floor is this copy of Grognak the Barbarian. Mine got launched a little bit, but normally it's right there on the floor where I'm standing in that shot. Now, if we go to the other branching off path, there's going to be some frag mines, so be careful. As we make our way further down this little cave here, you're going to find a dead mercenary. There's going to be a scripted encounter down here with this raider burning a Yao Guai to death with this flamethrower. So make sure you blow the raiders' heads off, or out, I guess is the proper term. And then we'll make our way further in. This is the Yao Guai cave section of Cliffside Cavern. So as the name would imply, there are going to be a motherfuck ton of Yao Guai inside. Just go ahead and take care of them. There's some ammunition and healing items, pretty typical. This part of the cave is kind of not as exciting besides fighting the Yao Guai. There's not as many rooms, there's not as much loot. So just take out the Yao Guai as they come. And eventually, as you get towards the end of the cave, you're going to find a ton of dead bodies and also a blueprint for the Nuka-Cola grenade. We'll show you where that is here in just a second. But yeah, I found it interesting that a bunch of raiders would hole up in a cave with a bunch of Yao Guai. Obviously the raiders, there's the schematics by the way, but obviously the raiders would be trying to kill the Yao Guai, but seems like they're struggling. There's a bunch of dead raiders and they're trying to use frag mines and other things. Anyways, back up on the surface, this. If we go a bit to the northwest of the cave entrance, we will find this Enclave camp. Just go ahead and kill all of the Enclave. Now, luckily a Deathclaw already did most of it for me. I don't know how he escaped or what exactly happened. Don't know why there was fighting before I got here. Maybe I walked nearby one time and it just let all hell break loose. But I was happy to get some plasma weapons to repair my plasma rifle and my plasma pistol. But besides the Enclave camp, there isn't a whole lot in the surrounding area. If you go a bit more to the northeast, there's the dead Deathclaw, but if you go a bit more to the northeast, you will find a bunch of bloat flies around this kind of like rubble. Don't know why they're all hanging up out here, but yeah, you can go ahead and kill them and they're gonna hit you with their freaking things, which is actually quite terrible in Fallout lore, but obviously it's a video game, so yeah, it's not as bad. But also near the cave, we can find this large canyon. I encountered my first albino rad scorpion in this playthrough. Man, these things are a bitch and a half. They have so much freaking health. But yeah, me and Dogmeat, after about 1 minute of shooting it with my tiny laser pistol, were able to finally kill it. And like I said, there is this little canyon here, and it is pretty nice, or like pretty beautiful in this area of the map. I don't really have much memory here, but I really liked it, just kind of like walking, enjoying the scenery, and it just felt kind of, I don't know, I just had some solitude, some peace, and yeah, it was really a good moment to take in the wasteland. But there you guys have it, Cliffside Cavern, a location I have no recollection of, but I really enjoyed exploring it and checking it out for the first time that my memory can remember. But I obviously have probably been here before since I have discovered all Fallout 3 locations, but maybe that was over 10 years ago. Alright guys, do you have any recollection of this location? Please let me know in the comments section below. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any ideas or recommendations for future videos or future locations, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the unexplored capital wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out Anacostia Crossing Station, which is one of the many train stations found within Fallout 3. Now for a while I've been thinking about how will I cover the Washington DC Metro, and I do think it is probably best just to go section by section. That way it's not too confusing and I can better demonstrate how to reach certain places and just how to navigate it. So today we're going to be checking out Anacostia Crossing Station, which is one of the easiest ways to enter downtown DC, given its proximity to Rivet City. And here you can see the location of Anacostia Crossing on the world map, just north of Rivet City in the far southeastern corner of the map. As we approach, there will be some Talon Company mercs here, or if you have bad karma, then the good karma version of the Talon Company. Anyways, there was 3 of them here for me, not too difficult to take care of, especially when you got Dogmeat as your companion. Now, outside of the station, there really isn't anything truly remarkable. There are some tables and chairs. One thing I wanted to see, though, is I wanted to see how far you can travel before the world stops. So I just decided to continue east to find out where the world barrier is. This is somewhere I've never really visited in Fallout 3, so I thought we'd go ahead and check it. But basically it just goes to the road, and then right here in this little hole, yeah, there's an invisible wall, and we cannot proceed any further. Now at Anacostia Crossing, there is a map, and you'll notice that this appears to be the end of the line for the red line, or like the starting station. You can see there are no other museums before it, or at least that appears on the map. Now as we enter, we will come in from the western side. There's going to be a door here to the women's bathroom. However, this part is completely collapsed in. Now the men's bathroom is more fortunate, but there is really nothing in the bathroom of interest. As we come into the station, you're going to come to this main central area that is pretty typical of Fallout 3. There's going to be a group of raiders here. Just go ahead and take them out however you see fit. For me, this laser pistol did, well, a fine enough job. Now, as you come in and you make your way to the northern part of the main, terminal area, there will be some tables and stuff. And on one of the tables, like you can see here, we can find a copy of Pugilism Illustrated, which will increase your unarmed skill. And there's some chems and stuff like that. There's some graffiti on the wall. There's a vending machine with some Nuka-Cola inside. Now, inside of this ticket booth, which is what I think it is, we can find some chems, a gun. Also, there's a lit cigarette, just a really kind of cool little detail. because obviously one of those raiders was probably enjoying a cigarette. Now, as we make our way to the eastern part of the station, we're going to find an office area. Now, in here we can find this metro terminal, and you need to hack in order to get on it, but we can activate the Securitron to help us. Also, there's a metro map which we can download to our Pip-Boy, so we'll always have a map of the metro on our Pip-Boy, which I thought was pretty freaking cool. Now, in this little kitchen area, we can find a first aid kit, and then this Protectron will power on, and he immediately notices that something is wrong, and he's supposed to check tickets, but now he's going to be, well, just killing raiders. Now, inside of the offices, I did find one lone raider, so loot his body. Now, truthfully, in this office area, which I assumed was used by the DC Metro just for the office workers and, the office side of running public transit, well, there's really nothing inside of this area. Unfortunately, even though it is quite large and there's tons of cubicles, I could find nothing worth mentioning. There's just a ton of tin cans if you need those. As we come back out to the eastern part of the station, we can find the exit to Seward Square, which is, well, a location for another video. So heading back into Anacostia Crossing, this time we're going to head to the southern part of the station, just kind of following along the train tracks. And as we do that, we will find another raider, and we can go to the very end here, and there's this little side area with some machinery and stuff, but it's all caved in. And we can go all the way down to the very end, but there's actually really nothing down here, so it's not really worth going down here besides to kill that one raider. Now, as we go to the northern part of the station and we go to the left tunnel, it's partly caved in and we can actually see it continues on, but we cannot get there. Don't know why, but that really gives me the creeps, just kind of these dark abandoned tunnels. As we make our way down the right tunnel, there's going to be a raider and then another raider that was eaten by dog meat. And so we're going to go ahead and loot their bodies. And here we can find a small living area for some raiders. We have some of these mattresses and stuff. And on this table, there is a stim pack. So we'll go ahead and take that. Free stim packs are always welcome. But besides that, this little living area doesn't have much else of interest. If we make our way all the way to the end of this tunnel, we can find the museum station, which is, again, a location for another day. And there you guys have it. The Anacostia Crossing Station. Let me know what you guys think of the Washington, D.C. Metro. For me, as a kid, this place really gave me the creeps. And it's also kind of confusing, but now that I'm grown up, it's not nearly as bad. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any ideas or recommendations for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out Seward Square, which is a large section of downtown Washington, D.C. As the name would imply, it is a large square with many buildings and many interesting things going on. It's a pretty large area, and there's a huge fight taking place between super mutants and some Talon Company mercs. Now, Seward Square is based on the real-life Seward Square in Washington, D.C. in roughly the same area, and it is named after William Seward, who was the Secretary of State under President Abraham Lincoln during the American Civil War. And Seward Square is located here on the southeastern part of the map, as you can see right here, just north of Rivet City. Now, in order to access it, you're going to have to kind of make your way through the metro. The easiest way is to start at Rivet City, make your way to Anacostia Crossing Station. Just go ahead on in. We're going to speed it up here, but I'll show you the way. Come in, go straight across the main platform here. If you haven't been here before, there will be raiders, so be ready for that. And just go straight, and then you'll find this gate, which will take you to Seward Square, and you're going to be at the southern entrance. Now, immediately, you're going to be ambushed by some super mutants. One of them had a missile launcher and did some damage to me and Dogmeat, but hey, it wasn't anything we couldn't take care of. Now, directly behind the station, there's a lot of rubble, and obviously this place was hit pretty hard by atomic bombs. Now, over here, there will be a truck, and inside of this truck, there's going to be some pretty decent loot. As we enter the truck, we're going to find this dead wastelander, who we can assume used to live here. There's going to be some ammunition boxes, Be careful of this stroller because it is one of those fake trap strollers. As soon as you approach it, the baby sound will play, and then you have to disarm the bomb or get the hell out of Dodge. After that, there are 2 first aid boxes on top of the bunk bed with random healing items inside, so you can take a look and see what you get. Healing items are always welcomed. Now, besides Riley's Rangers, perhaps the most notable character within Seward Square is the Preacher. The Preacher is a crazed inhabitant who just shouts out random nonsense when you're in the area, like so.
And the sun will rise in the north. No, the northwest, for 44 days and 67 nights, and we'll never notice.
And if you get too close, he will detonate 5 mini-nukes, killing himself and killing the player character. If you choose not to approach him, he'll just keep shouting his random nonsense through some loudspeakers about just random stuff. Now, some of it might actually have some meaning. He rants about the apocalypse, perhaps the Great War. He mentions the sun, and that the sun has been put in a jar, which is probably a mini-nuke. And he also mentions trees to the north, which is probably Oasis. And he says his plan with all of the explosives that he has gathered is to kill an evil worm. Don't know what that is, but I just get images of the worm from Dune. Now, after finally killing all of the super mutants and just listening to his ranting and almost getting blown sky high, I made a pretty dumb mistake. I decided to approach him, hoping I could engage in some kind of dialogue, because honestly, I don't remember this interaction. And yeah, he just blew me sky high, and me not thinking clearly at this moment, well, I forgot to save. So, yeah, that was pretty sad. But at least I could listen to his ranting, and it is pretty humorous, and I really enjoyed this interaction within Fallout 3. Now, if you approach from the other end of the alley where his house is, we will find his hostage, this wastelander here. If we talk to him, he says he just wants him to shut up and that he wants to leave. However, he says that if he leaves, then he'll detonate all the mini-nukes. However, as we will soon see, he is in the safe range of the explosives. He could easily just run away. But hey, maybe he doesn't know any better. But basically, we can tell him that we can try and help him, and that we can try and make him shut up, or you can convince him, if your charisma is high enough, to approach him, which will obviously kill him. So I told him that I would try and help him. I sniped the crazed preacher, which was actually pretty easy, and after you've killed him, you can now loot the 5 mini-nukes here, which is really freaking good. One of the mini-nukes is directly under where the preacher is. Another mini-nuke is over here by this shopping cart, just on the outside of it. Now, the other 2 mini-nukes are by this trash can on the other side of the slide. One is right there, and one is by this plant. And then the last mini-nuke is going to be on the merry-go-round, which is over here. Now, in addition to the 5 mini-nukes, there's also 5 unarmed frag mines in the area. Of course, you can take those as well. Now, the Wastelander, as I said before, can be convinced to go convent the preacher himself. And, well, if you do that, then, well, you're just kind of an evil bastard. But it is kind of funny. He trusts you because he says you're smart, and then he just runs in, and yeah, we can just watch the show from afar. He just runs through those trash cans, and he gets blown sky high. There's his body getting thrown around, just full on ragdoll, and it is pretty freaking amazing. But I didn't want that because I'd rather have the mini-nukes, kind of a selfish reason, but yeah, it's a reason nonetheless. So after that, I went back and I went to go kill those super mutants again. A really easy way to get rid of them, blow up this car. They all gathered right next to this car, and I just shot the car, it blew up, and it got rid of all of them. Now, inside the back of this truck, we can find a first aid box, and there's also going to be this average lock safe, and you can pick it and see what you find inside. For me, there was some bottle caps and a stealth boy. Stealth boys are always welcomed in Fallout 3. Now, a big feature of Seward Square is that it is the home of Riley's Rangers. However, they're not going to be here yet until you've completed their quest line. They're not currently in their place. But if you go back to the far eastern part of Seward Square, you can find the Ranger compound. And if you have 100 science or 100 lockpick, you can actually get inside before you've even met the Rangers, which I thought was kind of interesting. Now, there is a second floor above the compound. However, there was nothing up there. Also, this was the easiest, very hard hard lock I've ever had in any Fallout, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, in this first room, we can find their living quarters, and you can actually take everything inside, and it's not considered stealing. You won't lose karma. So there's like some stim packs, some first aid boxes, ammunition, RadAway. So yeah, it's a good way to stock up on some supplies without losing karma. Now in the pantry, there's just a bunch of random goods. On the generator there is a copy of Dean's Electronics, which I actually missed, but it is there, and that'll increase your repair skill by 1. I have a feeling I'll mention that again in a future video about Riley's Rangers. Now something pretty interesting is there is a terminal in here that has information on all of the Rangers and Riley's opinion of them and some of their current missions. One of the missions talks about super mutants and having to kill said super mutants somewhere in Washington, D.C., which is probably the mission where you actually find them being stranded on top of the Statesman Hotel surrounded by super mutants. Now heading back to Seward Square, it is worth mentioning there is a cinema here at 5th and Broadway, and it has many movies from the pre-war era. All the letters are still well preserved somehow, and you can see all of them here. One Wife Hold the Meatballs, Raz Baston and the Amazons of Xarn, I Married a Maoist, and Hush Sweet Senator Hush. Now this square is primarily occupied by super mutants, and we can find a lot of these meat bags. There's one of those like iconic Fallout 3 statues in the middle. There is this like overhead street, however you cannot get up there, at least on console. Obviously on PC you could use console commands to get up there, so I don't really know if there's anything of interest up there, but probably not. And then over here we can find a Cuppa Joe, which is like the Fallout Worlds version of Starbucks, but we cannot go inside. Now over here we can find the Penn Avenue Seward Square metro system. Very small metro system that just connects to Pennsylvania Avenue. In the back alley here we can find a sewer, and there's going to be 2 super mutants back here as well coming out of the sewer, and this will also lead you to Pennsylvania Avenue. So 2 ways to get there from Seward Square. Now as you come back out of the alley, you will again be attacked by a super mutant. This guy actually kind of scared me. I wasn't paying attention to my compass, and yeah, he just jumped out at me and was like saying hello. So hello good friend, and dog meat is happy. Now over here across from the station there is an office building, and you're going to notice this skywalk as you approach the Capitol building, and you can actually get in that skywalk there through the office building here, but we will show that later in the video because there's a very unique battle encounter when you go inside. So for now I wanted to head to the Capitol building where we will find a lot of super mutants. On the southwestern side of the Capitol building, at first you're going to find a whole lot of nothing. However, after you go inside the office building, that will change. If we just drop down, we can find some tables, some empty whiskey bottles, and one of these Pulawoski preservation shelters. Inside there's some pre-war money, a briefcase that had a Nuka-Cola inside of it, and a copy of Line Congressional Style, so make sure you pick up that skill book. Now as I approach these super mutants over here to the north, they were blown up by an Enclave helicopter right as I brought out my Fat Man. So hey, me and the Enclave had this same idea. And then you decided not to let my Fat Man go to waste, and I used a mini nuke on that sentry bot. Now these super mutants had a lot of really good loot, so they might for you as well. Don't know if it's just leveled or it's designed that way. And then here we can find an entrance to the Capitol building, the Capitol building East entrance. And that pretty much covers all of the main attractions here. Now, like I said, we're going to go check out the office building real quick, and then the metro systems will be for a future video. So this office building was actually the Office of Urban Planning for Washington, D.C. during the pre-war era. It is an unmarked building, but inside we can find a lone Talon Company merc. We will kill him. On the very top, we can find a terminal. Now, there really isn't a whole lot of interest on this terminal, but the first thing is pretty funny because it says the last report was 72,982 days ago, and that in order to make up all of this time missed, we have to work 417,040 extra hours. Pretty freaking crazy. Obviously, nobody has used this terminal in quite some time. Nobody has checked into work, well, since the bombs fell. Now, right behind the terminal, we can find the door that leads out to that skywalk that I mentioned earlier. And out here, you actually got to be kind of careful because there's going to be a ton of Talon Company mercs below you. Now, on this table here, we can find this Seward Square artillery note, which reads, Artillery Order 562, Talon Company Support Team Take Alpha, position on the sky bridge near Seward Square and protect the squad's right flank. Bring plenty of ammo because you're going to be there for a while. A small team has been dispatched to secure the Capitol building's south wing. We suspect minor resistance in that sector, but if the need arises, we've locked in some artillery coordinates. Call in the strikes by using the switch we've provided for you. So that's right, we can call in an artillery strike thanks to the Talon Company. On this little table here, if we activate this switch while getting blown up, well, this will send in some artillery. Now, I think it's pretty crazy that the Talon Company has the ability to launch artillery into downtown Washington, D.C. They have to have some serious weapons for that. And yeah, the artillery will mess up these super mutants and Talon Company mercs, and apparently they have unlimited ammo because you can just keep calling in these artillery strikes over and over and over again until everyone is dead. Also, that one soldier's gun went frickin' flying. But yeah, you can just keep calling in these artillery strikes over and over and over again. Now, one of the super mutants escaped from the artillery. Actually, two of them did. So I went ahead and went in and killed them. And this is what spawns the super mutants at the southern wing of the Capitol building. Now, earlier in the video, you may have noticed there was a vertibird flying over. That vertibird actually drops off a lone Enclave soldier. Don't really know what he was going to do here against all of those super mutants, but hey. Additionally, the Wastelander, after you've killed the crazy preacher, he just says, "It's so quiet." And there's nothing else. There's no thank you or anything else, so hey, maybe he deserved to die. And there you guys have it, Seward Square. This is a really fun location to play through in Fallout 3. The combat is pretty intense, the super mutants are pretty difficult, and of course, the crazy-ass preacher dude makes it really fun and kind of funny to play through. It just has that very typical Fallout black humor, which I always love. Additionally, it has the Capitol building and Riley's Rangers, so there's a lot of things going on here. Of course, though, the Capitol building will be a video for another day. Alright guys, let me know what you think of Seward Square in the comment section down below. What are your encounters like with the Mad Preacher? I'm very interested to know. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capitol Wasteland. If you have any ideas or recommendations for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capitol Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out the sewer metro in downtown Washington, D.C. that connects Seward Square with Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, even though it's called a sewer, in reality this is pretty much just a section of the metro system that connects these two places. Now, there is another metro section that connects Seward Square and Penn Avenue, and we'll talk about that in a future video. But for now, this location is pretty easy to miss. There's some interesting things going on inside, so let's waste no more time and let's check it out. The sewer is unmarked on the map, but if you go to Seward Square North Metro, then we can easily access it. However, it does show up on the local map. Here you can see it on the local map. Anyhow, if we go over here to the North Metro, the sewer is literally just across the street. There's like a baby carriage there that is not trapped. Now, the first time you come through here, you're going to find two super mutants, so just get ready to fight them. They're coming out of the sewer. Now, this sewer has a lot of super mutants inside of it. If you choose to take the actual, train station to Penn Avenue, then you're going to have to fight ghouls. So kind of just pick your poison. Do you want to fight super mutants or ghouls? So the sewer is right here. You just click on it and you'll go on inside. Immediately, as we come into the metro part of it, we will find a super mutant master. Now, if you have the Broken Steel DLC, there is a very high chance that these super mutants will be overlords. All of the super mutants down here for me were overlords, except for the one we just killed. But we follow the metro. Eventually, we're going to come to this middle area where two tracks kind of meet with each other. There's going to be a super mutant on the other side for me, an overlord. Just kind of like a bullet sponge, so just kind of pour him full of bullets. Have a companion help you, like dog meat, and yeah, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. You can go ahead and loot. Now, the super mutant from a little bit further to the east here heard the ruckus up here, and he came and attacked us, so me and dog meat went down and took care of him as well. Now, before we go and find the kind of cool loot stash here, which I could have just shown right there, I wanted to go ahead and investigate the story behind the loot within this place. If we go to the middle section again and just kind of go into this like service room, go upstairs, we're going to find 3 skeletons and a laser pistol and also a hidden stash note. And this note reads, JP is a lying, toilet-sucking, good-for-nothing, rad-brained bastard. The stash doesn't exist. We searched everywhere down here and nothing. Not one lousy gun. We managed to pick up some ammo, but that's about it. Now we're stuck here with these damn mutants streaming in and out of the tunnels. What are those bastards even doing? I snuck some of our supplies at the end of the southeast tunnel under some debris. There's no way we can sneak past the bastards carrying it all by ourselves. Hell, I'll send JP down here next time to retrieve it, see how he likes it. However, it appears that these poor souls lost out and were killed by the super mutants. Now, if we go down to the southeast tunnel underneath all of these debris, we can indeed find a hole in the wall and a lot of ammunition boxes. However, a lot of the boxes I couldn't actually access. There's also a copy of Tumblers Today, so you can try and see what you can access, but I had trouble accessing all but 2 boxes, which was kind of sad. But besides the fact that the loot, well, is not that great, it is a kind of cool little story and a bit sad. But from here, the southeast tunnel is just collapsed, so we'll go back to that middle section and we'll keep following along the northern tunnel where kind of we entered, just going the opposite direction. There's going to be a train here, go all the way past, there's going to be another super mutant, Overlord for me at least, go ahead and kill him, and then in here is where you can find the exit. Now you can actually just kind of look around this area a bit, like on the other side of this little area, there are more trains. However, there's literally nothing over here, and if you have a companion with you, especially Dogmeat, you might get stuck. I kind of went in between these trains. I don't really know what I was doing. I was just kind of looking around trying to find cool stuff, and I was like, wait, why can't I get out? And there's Dogmeat, like, ha, you're trapped. But eventually, after jumping and struggling for a lot longer than I care to admit, I was able to get out. Now, on the other side, there are some more of these like holes in the walls, which is pretty typical in Fallout, but yeah, there's no loot in any of them, which is too bad. Then if we just go back to that middle area, we can find the ladder that leads us to Pennsylvania Avenue, where we will be immediately ambushed by the Talon Company. So yeah, a whole bunch of mercs are going to be here. Then another super mutant came flying down the street, trying to kill me as well. Just kind of walked right into a active combat zone in the middle of Washington, D.C., but hey, it could be worse. Now, if you go down right below in this like little garage area next to the sewer, we can actually find a scavenger and his dogs. He does have an explosive trap that I decided to trigger by accident, so be aware of that. But yeah, we have a scavenger down here, kind of a badass for just living and surviving in the middle of DC, but we cannot take anything from him. He is only good for trading. Well, of course, unless you're an evil bastard. And that, guys, pretty much covers the sewer in Washington, D.C.'s metro system. Let me know what you guys think of this location. Have you ever visited here before? And did you find the hidden loot? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching the Unexplored Capital Wasteland, and as always, until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. I'm the Army of Otters, and today we're going to be checking out Pennsylvania Avenue. Obviously a pretty major location within Fallout 3, just given its historical significance. If you don't know, in Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania Avenue connects the White House to the Capitol building, giving some pretty remarkable views as you look down the street. Now, in the Fallout universe, the White House was completely obliterated by the Chinese during the Great War, so there's nothing but a crater there now, but the Capitol building is still intact, and there's still some other points of interest along Pennsylvania Avenue, so let's go ahead and check it out. Now, Pennsylvania Avenue features several metro stations, which is pretty much the main map marker. Also, there is this White House Plaza that serves as another map marker. Now, the easiest way to get here, at least in my opinion, is to come from Rivet City, because most players will have discovered Rivet City early on. You can go to Anacostia Crossing, and going through this station, we just go all the way straight across the platform here. There will be raiders here normally. We will exit out to Seward Square, and there will almost always be enemies here, even after you clear it out the first time. This time there was a sentry bot. Usually the first time there's going to be super mutants. Going to go all the way towards the Capitol building. Here you have two options. You can use the metro system or the sewer. I elected for the sewer because I explored that for a video in the prior episode. But if you choose to use the metro, you're going to have to fight ghouls. If you choose to use the sewer, you're going to have to fight super mutants. So just pick your poison. And as we come out of the sewer, we're going to be ambushed by some of these Talon Company bastards. But hey, we're at Pennsylvania Avenue, or a little bit to the east of it, but no problem. There's also a super mutant master that came down the street and tried to kill us, but he was by himself, so pretty easy to get rid of. Now, immediately next to the sewer entrance, you're going to find this like parking garage, or what I think is a parking garage anyway. We can make our way down, and there is an explosive trap. Do be careful, but yeah, it went off, didn't kill anybody. And down here we can find a lone scavenger. I have to admit, he's a bit of a badass for willing to stay in downtown DC with his two dogs. A very dangerous place to be. But yeah, you can trade with him. You cannot take his stuff because it's considered stealing. I mean, you can take his stuff, but then he's obviously going to get pissed at you, and you're going to have to kill him. And yeah, I don't want to be a bad person in this playthrough. Now, immediately across from the scavenger, you can find this little gated section. There will be one of these baby carriage traps, so I went ahead and disarmed it. There's also a couple of dumpsters, but really nothing in there. Now, making our way to the south, we can find Metro Central, which is the largest train station in Fallout 3, and is where the red and white lines meet. Now, immediately to the north of the station, we can find this kind of old little diner, and you definitely want to go in here because you can find a lot of ammunition. Also, this diner provides some protection from the super mutants that are going to ambush the shit out of you. So just go ahead and take them out, and then you can obviously get your ammunition. And inside the diner itself, it is quite gory inside. There's a bunch of these meat bags and a lot of these mutilated bodies. So obviously this place is no longer serving hamburgers, but instead serving human meat. So yeah, kind of disturbing. But anyways, these wastelanders really don't have a lot of good loot on them besides their armor. If you want some leather armor. Now there are some chairs and some old like phone booths and stuff in the area, but besides that, not a whole lot in the way of loot. So from now, we're just going to make our way further south. Here's Metro Central, a very large entrance. It's probably the largest entrance of any metro on Pennsylvania Avenue. Also, there's a little glitch there with the graphics, with the texture. Just thought I would point it out. Now, if we go over here, there's a little square with like these 3 men statue. We also have this Pawlowski Preservation Shelter. Inside, we can find a dead Protectron. I guess he was trying to hide from the atomic bombs. And also an ammunition box where we can get some energy cells. So, not half bad. Now, we make our way to the very southeast of Pennsylvania Avenue, right where we can kind of see the Capitol building, but the road is blocked off. We can find the Pennsylvania Avenue East Metro Station. This is where it will take you to Seward Square. Earlier in the video, I showed the Seward Square Metro. That is the exit if you choose to fight the ghouls rather than the super mutants. Now, going over to that building with like those 3 statues of men, we can find a dead wastelander, probably killed by the super mutants, but we can also find a lot of first aid boxes with some pretty good healing items, so definitely take a peek and see what you can find. And in the corner here next to the bed, there's some ammunition boxes. Now, from here, we'll make our way down Pennsylvania Avenue towards the White House. And as you make your way down the street, it might seem a bit empty, but there is going to be a really large building that is covered in scaffolding right here on my right. And there's actually a pretty cool little interaction with this building that is very easy to miss. Now, there is supposed to be a dead body on the first level of the scaffolding. However, for me, that body was not there initially for whatever reason. But basically, there's going to be this fallen light post you can walk on up. Right here, there should be a body, but it wasn't there for me for whatever reason. If you walk towards the end, you're going to be ambushed by the super mutants. However, there's an electrical switch here that we can activate, which will detonate all of these mines, which apparently have been placed along Pennsylvania Avenue to create this really awesome explosion, and it'll detonate all of these cars and just absolutely annihilate those super mutants. But like I said, there's supposed to be a dead body here, a dead Talon Company merc. However, it wasn't there, and it's kind of a really weird little glitch. So I decided to reload a previous save, and I ran here from kind of far away, a little bit hard, but this time the body was here. So I was able to loot the body, and on the body we can find this note: Pennsylvania Avenue explosives note, which reads, "The explosives have been placed along Pennsylvania Avenue as instructed. The electrical switch is located on the first level of the scaffolding on PA Avenue. Simply flip the switch, take cover, and get ready for one hell of a show. I'm going to stick around a little longer to see if I can pick off a couple more mutants. Merc Thompson, Talon Company." So we can learn that this Merc is named Thompson. Now, something really weird happened. When I reloaded my main save, the mercenary's body spawned. I don't know why the hell that happened, but a really weird glitch. Anyways, we learned that Thompson here was probably trying to get a few more headshots, but the super mutants likely got the best of him. However, we're not going to waste time trying to get some headshots. We're going to pull that switch and just watch the fireworks a second time. Also, this time it was much more effective, so hey, I guess it all worked out in the end. But anyways, that is a pretty cool little interaction that would be pretty easy to miss. Now, as we make our way down Pennsylvania Avenue, get ready for one hell of a show because there's going to be a huge fight breaking out between super mutants and the Brotherhood of Steel. Now, from what I know, I think the Brotherhood of Steel will almost always win this fight, mainly because there's going to be these cars that are getting blown up and stuff, so I just kind of let them finish off the super mutants. Now, if we head over here just to the west, we can find Pennsylvania Avenue South. If we go to the north, then we can find Pennsylvania Avenue North. These are two metro stations that will lead you around DC. As we made it to the White House Plaza, we can then find the victorious Brotherhood of Steel. One of these guys literally had like 1 HP left, so he was quite lucky. But if you haven't finished the main quest, then you cannot take their loot. Now, to the north, we can find this like truck, and in the back of it, you're going to watch this wastelander get absolutely annihilated by a super mutant, so we'll go in there and get revenge for our wastelander friend. Now, on the back of this truck, there's going to be a lot of ammunition, some healing items and stuff, so you can loot around and see what you can find. There's also a bed if you need to sleep. Now, heading back to the White House Plaza, it is marked by these 4 golden Valkyries, each holding a large bowl. And in front of them is going to be a large fence where the White House used to be before, like, the Chinese dropped, I don't know, dozens of nukes on top of it, trying to kill the president. Of course, the president of the United States during the Great War was a member of the Enclave, so yeah, he wasn't a very good person either, now was he? Now, something I learned here is that the map marker for the White House Plaza is quite, like, picky or, like, hard to find. It's actually just to the right of those 4 golden statues that I mentioned earlier. Now, over here to the south, we can find Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, so you can get that map marker. Then if we go over here again, just to, like, the little bit to the right of those 4 golden statues, I was able to get the White House Plaza map marker. Now, right here also is a manhole to a utility tunnel, which will take us into what remains of the White House. However, that is a story for a different day. But here we can see everything now marked and located on the world map. There's pretty much just one location left for us to visit, and that's this old hotel right next to the White House. I have no clue how it's still intact, considering all the nukes that must have fallen near it, but hey, whatever. Inside, we can find a lone Brotherhood of Steel knight who is resting up. If you set off the rigged shotgun, it's going to wake him up. Sorry, he's a paladin, not a knight. But if you don't set off the shotgun, which is actually what I really want to do, so disarm that tripwire, he will not wake up and you can sneak around and take all of his loot. Now, I really don't want to do that. I'm not like too against the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 3, but the big thing I want is a Chinese Spec Ops training manual, which we can find over here. It is considered stealing unless, again, you have completed the main quest. So we're going to go ahead and take that training manual and we are all set. And there you guys have it, Pennsylvania Avenue. Honestly, this is one of my favorite locations in Fallout 3, just because of its historical significance, because we have the White House and the Capitol building off in the distance. It just feels really surreal being able to explore this place in a video game in the post-apocalypse. Let me know what you guys think of Pennsylvania Avenue in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your experiences with it. As always, guys, if you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos or future locations in the Capital Wasteland, please post them in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland, and until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out the Pennsylvania Avenue and Seward Square metro system. This is a pretty small metro that connects Pennsylvania Avenue to Seward Square. Now in my previous video we talked about the Sewer Metro, which connects Pennsylvania Avenue to Seward Square as well. Both of these locations are right next to each other. However, this way is much easier because you just have some lower level feral ghouls, whereas in the sewer I had to fight 3 super mutant overlords, which was quite tough. So this is an easier way to get there. So on the world map, it's marked as Seward Square North Metro, and we're going to start from the Seward Square entrance, and then it goes to Penn Avenue East Station. So here is the metro, kind of in the middle of Seward Square. Go down this escalator, and then we can make our way inside. Now, the actual metro itself has collapsed. We cannot go that way, but thankfully we can use the office and employee passages to get to Penn Avenue. Now, there will be some feral ghouls in here, and unfortunately there is not a lot of loot, and a lot of these passages have collapsed like you can see here. So it is actually better to go to the sewer way just because there's better loot in there, but it's more difficult. But yeah, pretty much just got rid of these 3 feral ghouls, and that's all there was to it. There was one glowing one, but for me and Dogmeat, not much of a problem. Now, as far as loot, there isn't a whole lot. There's some chems. Some of the desks might have ammunition and stuff, but yeah, there isn't a whole lot as far as loot. There's a shopping cart down here. Not quite sure why that was brought down here, but hey, who knows. In the bathroom, all of the stalls were closed. I decided to open them. Don't know why. I always thought these stalls were really creepy, really scary. Who knows what you're going to find on the other side of them. But as we come out of the bathroom, there is another collapsed corridor, and then we can find the door to Penn Avenue. And then when we made our way outside, we were, immediately ambushed by some Talon Company mercs, so yeah, F you guys, we got rid of them. Not too difficult, and I will welcome the XP. And with that, we've pretty much covered that part of the metro, so a really easy way to get from Penn Avenue to Seward Square, or of course, vice versa. So, thank you so much for watching the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any ideas or recommendations for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, until next time. The White House might be one of the most iconic buildings within the United States of America. Construction started in 1792 and would last 8 years until 1800. However, it was not always just happy times. On August 24th, 1814, during the War of 1812, the White House was burned down by British soldiers. However, that pales in comparison to what happened to the White House on October 23rd, 2077. As the nuclear exchange between the United States and China lasted about 2 hours, the Chinese directly targeted the White House at least one time, and possibly many more. Hello everyone, I'm the Army of Otters, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out the White House, the legendary building itself, or at the very least, what is left of it. Now, the White House is located at the very end of Pennsylvania Avenue, and it's just west of White House Plaza. I mean, who would have thought about that? But accessing the actual White House is not so straightforward, because when you approach it, you're going to find these radiation signs all over the place, and as you start to approach, you start to pick up a small level of radiation. Obviously, the White House is gone, and there's a huge freaking crater now where it used to stand. I have no idea who put up these radiation signs, but it's very kind of them. Obviously, it was not the US government. Now, in the White House Plaza, we have these 4 golden Valkyrie statues in this water fountain, and nearby we have this unmarked hotel that looks really cool with its little clock tower. I just thought I'd go ahead and mention this hotel because we can find a Chinese Special Ops training manual inside. Now, do be cautious of the tripwire at the entrance, because if you set it off, well, this Brotherhood of Steel soldier will wake up, and that will make stealing this training manual a little bit harder. So while he's asleep, we can easily grab it. Now, we can see some of the pillars that used to support the White House. They've obviously been pushed away. They've obviously been pushed away by a nuclear blast. And then just over here in the White House Plaza, we can find this manhole that leads us to utility. This utility tunnel will provide us access to the White House. Now, as soon as we enter these utility tunnels, you're going to want to go straight right. We can find a first aid box, a copy of Pugilism Illustrated, a footlocker with some railway spikes inside, and also a bottle cap mine on this workbench. So, not half bad loot, if I do say so myself. Now, as we make our way to the northern end of the tunnel, we have a really interesting sight. We have a skeleton that appears to have been cut in half with its skull hanging from this lamp. Below the skeleton is a car, 2 ramps, and a crashed motorcycle. This appears to have been some kind of daredevil stunt gone wrong. Who knows what happened, if it was covered up, or if it happened right before the Great War. But it's kind of interesting and, well, there's some dark humor to it. Now we make our way to the northwesternmost section. We will find that the tunnel is collapsed. However, in the rubble, we can find a first aid box. And then at the end of the tunnel here, we can find a doorway. However, unfortunately, it has since caved in. So there's nowhere else to go except back towards the entrance. And this time, we're going to go down this hallway. Now this is a pretty long hallway. There's no enemies. Just make your way through it. There's another portion that has since collapsed in. As we make our way up these stairs, we can now go left, out to Pennsylvania Avenue, out to the White House. In the ruins of what used to be one of the most recognizable buildings in the world, we can find some glowing ones. Obviously, they have succumbed to the intense amount of radiation in this crater. So I used some Rad-X to help reduce its effects, because you'll take about 6 or 7 rads per second here. Here at the bottom, we can find a ton of skeletons. Perhaps they were trying to escape to the utility tunnel right as the war started. However, they did not survive. Now at the top of the stairs, we can find a skeleton along with some Radaway and 3 frickin' mini nukes. A really good find. And also there is a Fat Man, but I already have a Fat Man, so I didn't pick it up at this time. Now across here, I found a skeleton's leg that was just standing perfectly upright. I've never seen this in Fallout before, but I thought it was kind of cool, kind of funny, in a, well, dark humor kind of way. Now, no matter how hard you try, there is no way to jump up the crater. You're kind of locked within it, but from this little corner here, you can get a pretty good view of the destruction. And heading back into utility, at the end, we will find the presidential sub-level. However, it requires a key to be opened, and that will be a story for, well, a day in the distant future. So there you guys have it, the White House. I hope you enjoyed this video. The White House is actually kind of easy to miss if you're not actively looking for it, so I would highly recommend checking it out because, well, it's pretty freaking cool, and also you get 3 free mini nukes, so who doesn't want that? Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out the Penn Avenue in Georgetown Metro, and this entrance is located near the White House Plaza on Pennsylvania Avenue, and of course it'll come out in Georgetown. Both of these are like enclosed portions of the map, and they will take some work to get to. If you need to know how to get here, you can check out my Pennsylvania Avenue video. Now on the world map, this entrance shows up as Penn Avenue Northwest, and then on the other side, Georgetown East entrance. And you can see actually these stations are quite close together. However, there is no passage above ground, so we have to use the metro. Now right next to the metro, there is this unmarked hotel. Just thought I'd mention it really quick because inside we can find a Chinese Special Ops training manual. Make sure you disarm this tripwire, otherwise you will wake up the Brotherhood of Steel soldier in here, making stealing this a little bit more difficult. But on to the metro. Now this metro has a pretty unique special encounter that triggers once you go down to like the actual train platform. As you enter, you're going to find this like barrel and fire, and it appears that somebody might live here, but there's no enemies, there's no friendlies, it just appears abandoned. And as we come to the train platform and the escalators, we can see a small camp down below with some mattresses and another fire. To make our way down and look behind and stuff, we still cannot find any people or any mutated creatures. And then looking at the small camp over here, we can find some ammunition boxes and a locked grenade box. So we'll go ahead and take that. And there's also some ammunition ammunition sitting on the table next to this assault rifle. Now, as you start to make your way out, you're going to notice some red dots on your radar. We have this train here that flipped and flew out of its tracks, but there is a guard dog now. Here, we shoot the guard dog and we're able to kill him after he kind of ran around in a circle. As we come up, we find a gang of raiders, likely returning home after they raided or attacked or looted somewhere. But these raiders are pretty easy to kill, and we vaporized all of them, so nice work there, dog meat. After that, we will then loot the raiders, take all we can. So we come out through the exit. We're going to find like what appears to be an old ticket booth. And then, of course, we have the exit to Georgetown. Now, as soon as I exited to Georgetown, I was immediately ambushed by the super mutants, a super mutant master and super mutant overlord. A little bit of a difficult fight coming out of this like old condo building. However, we were eventually able to get him. I just started throwing grenades at him. And yeah, this is a nice introduction to Georgetown, but Georgetown will be a story for another day. So there you guys have it, the Pennsylvania Avenue and Georgetown Metro. Now, a lot of these metros are kind of copy and paste and just serve as ways to get to different parts of the overworld. However, I do have to say this metro is pretty cool because we have a little unique interaction. So let me know if you guys know of this interaction, and do you have any experiences here? I would be interested to know. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland, and until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out Georgetown, which is a pretty significant area within the Washington, D.C. ruins. Obviously, a few episodes ago we checked out Pennsylvania Avenue, so that's going to be a little bit similar in this video, just kind of checking out the entire area and the locations within it. Now, of course, Georgetown is based on a real neighborhood in Washington, D.C., which contains, as you might guess, Georgetown University and the C&O Canal. And we can also find the canal here in Fallout 3, so pretty cool attention to detail. However, the real Georgetown is a little bit further west than the Georgetown in Fallout 3. But hey, for Fallout 3, the devs did a pretty good job at recreating this little neighborhood. Now here you can see Georgetown on the world map. It has many locations like the townhome and of course the Georgetown metro system. There's several metro entrances. Perhaps the easiest way to get here is to use Tepid Sewer, which the entrance is next to the Anchorage Memorial. I'm coming in from Pennsylvania Avenue, which I showed in my recent video. By using Penn Avenue Northwest, we can easily access Georgetown. Going through this metro is quite easy, and it's right next to this unmarked hotel. Now, this metro really doesn't have any loot inside of it, but there is a cool, unique encounter with some raiders, but I showed it in my last video, so let's just skip that for now. As we come up on Georgetown East, you will immediately be greeted by some super mutants, and in Georgetown, well, there are a ton of super mutants. I had a super mutant overlord and a super mutant master here. I'm at a pretty high level now for Fallout 3 standards, so yeah, I'm going to be fighting some of the more difficult enemies that the game has to offer. But hey, it isn't anything that a few frag grenades can't overcome. After killing these super mutants, I found out the Overlord had a mini nuke on him, which was a really welcome surprise, so I took that. And after this, I was immediately ambushed by, well, some more super mutants from the north. And when you get ambushed by these guys, you got to be careful because there will be a super mutant with a missile launcher, and in front of you, there are a ton of cars, which means whenever those missiles hit a car, the explosion becomes magnified. As you can see here, I was just getting bombarded from far away. Kind of a chaotic but really fun fight. Just have these missiles flying everywhere. Now, quite hilariously, I tried to take cover in this Powalski Preservation Shelter. Obviously, these were kind of just facades. They weren't really real. They didn't work against a nuclear explosion, but come to find out, they do work against missiles. Until you open up the door right as the car next to you blows up, and then I closed it again for safety. I opened it up, and then he hit me right again with a missile, so the timing of that super mutant is impeccable, but he just killed his pet centaur, so he's kind of a dick there. Anyways, he just kept firing missiles at me. I tried to use a sniper rifle, but since he was an overlord, he really didn't care that I just kept shooting him with my sniper rifle. And yeah, it's a victory rifle, so it should like knock him down eventually, but yeah, he just didn't really seem to care about it. So then I switched to my missile launcher, you know, fight fire with fire, and this worked a little bit better because it pushed him off of his little perch, and eventually he fell down off of it. and with that, well, now we were engaged on a ground battle. Now, I thought I had a huge big brain move here. I thought I was like, oh, I can just shoot this car, cause a massive explosion, and that worked. It caused a massive explosion, almost crushed myself with that car there, but the super mutant took no damage whatsoever. But hey, at least it made for a very cinematic shot. Now after this, I decided to push the super mutant. I pulled out my laser rifle here, and then obviously he wasn't just going to kill himself at close range, so he switched to his fist. And well, yeah, bringing your fist to a gunfight is not such a good idea. Also, Dogmeat was helping me out a bit too, so thank you, Dogmeat. But after that, we can now kind of loot around this area and see what we can find. Quite honestly, there is not a whole lot here. You can look in these mailboxes and stuff, but that one was just empty for me. Now, in the corner over here, the northern corner, you can find this tree with these gore bags on it, and around it, you can find some pretty decent loot inside, sometimes like frag grenades or caps. Also, we have all of these ammunition boxes and grenade boxes over here, along with 2 stim packs there on the side of the road. So not half bad. Now, on the western side of this plaza, you're going to find this building where the top has been blown off. On the bottom floor, the only thing of interest is this baseball trap. If you try to activate it, it won't work, and there is a pressure plate here that will activate the baseball trap, so you can disarm that if you want. But what we are really interested in is what is upstairs. So if we make our way upstairs, we can find this dead raider, and on her body there's going to be a sniper rifle and an ammunition box next to her with some 308 rounds. So not half bad. Now on the back side of this, you're going to find this like little park area. There is a baby carriage. There is no trap in it, thankfully, so don't have to worry about that. There's some benches and stuff. Really a nice looking area, I think, to live in, like a city. Got trees. It looks very beautiful. So yeah, if I were to live in a city, this would be a pick, that is for sure. Now as we make our way out of this little park area, we're going to come to the other side here of Georgetown, where the canal is. There was a lone super mutant here with his pet centaur, so yeah, we took out both of them, no problem. But we don't want to quite go down the canal yet, because behind us there is a townhouse that we can go inside. Now the sign on this townhome is a little bit difficult to make out, but basically it says the McClellan family, so we can assume that is who used to live here. And it also has their address, 2026 Bradley Place. Hey, that's the year it is now. I don't know if that means anything, probably not, but anyways, inside in the kitchen and stuff, there really isn't a whole lot. There is a large bed here in the master bedroom and 1 chair. It's kind of weird, but anyways, don't know what's going on there. Then there is a children's room with some Nuka-Cola items and stuff and a children's skeleton, so that's pretty sad. But over here on this table, we can find a copy of Lying Congressional Style, so definitely pick that up. Now over here in this back room, we can find this Mr. Handy, who is obviously working for the family here, and there are various tasks that you can have him do by using this terminal. I didn't really know what anything would be or what it would do, but I decided to do the grocery order because, well, I wanted to go explore the grocery store anyways, and then this happened. Get your Mr. Handy today, multi-purpose household helper developed by General Atomics International. These robots are extremely versatile. They can do your cleaning, they can do your cooking, they can even take care of your child. They can go shopping for you and get all of your errands done. No more hassle about going outside and wasting time doing trivial tasks. As you can see here, Mr. Handy flawlessly navigates his way to the supermarket in order to pick up the order for the McClellan family. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how that Mr. Handy, well, met his end. You gotta be really careful in this canal for the obvious reason of being ambushed. I had 2 super mutants, one with a Gatling laser and the other with a missile launcher. And yeah, they pretty much just said, fuck you to that Mr. Handy. And I felt a little bit bad that I accidentally killed it, but hey, whatever. Now over here by the Foggy Bottom Metro, we can find some Nuka-Cola machines. One of them had a Nuka-Cola Quantum. And before we navigate the canal, I wanted to go over to the southern part of Georgetown. Truthfully, there is like nothing over here, but we do have the Georgetown South Metro, so I just wanted to go ahead and show this entrance. I don't know why it caved in or how this happened, but it is slightly radioactive. Now, going back to the canal, there is this crashed truck here. However, you cannot get over it. You can kind of climb up right here, but this does not take you anyway. I wanted to get around the canal because just not having the high ground as Obi-Wan Kenobi taught me, is, well, not very good. But using my Blackhawk, I got really lucky with this shot here, because I just shot the missile launcher right out of his hands, and thankfully he just ran away. He didn't pick up that missile launcher again. So from here, I could just pretty easily run through the canal. Of course, there was going to be the Gatling laser, but he walked down to my level. So yeah, they surrendered the high ground, and, well, of course, they lost. Now, for the rest of this battle, I used my combat shotgun, and having dog meat, it was no problem at close range. Also, when I shot his Gatling laser out of his hands, that helped out a lot as well. So on the other side of the canal, as we come up, there's going to be this destroyed building on your right, and then this bridge right in front of you. I went ahead and checked out the bridge, but really there's nothing over here. It just seems like this whole area was built by Bethesda in order to ambush the player character. So yeah, fuck you too, Bethesda, but yeah, it's actually pretty cool game design. You can definitely see how this canal would be really beautiful and really nice in the pre-war era. And at the end of the little area here, there is a first aid box and an ammunition kit, so you can see what you can find. Now, in the bombed out building, kind of in the middle of this little plaza, there is some pretty decent loot. But when I first came here, I failed to realize I've already visited this building before in a previous episode. A long time ago, in my Tepid Sewers video, we came here. So past Otter, I'll let you take it from here. And eventually it opens up into this train station, and now we can leave to Georgetown West, where I was, ambushed, obviously, by a group of Talon Company mercs. When are these bastards not ambushing me? Anyways, I went ahead and killed all of them. They also got into a fight with some super mutants, and outside of the station here of Georgetown West, we can find this large kind of destroyed building that has some very interesting loot inside of it. Of course, there are normally super mutants in here. Thankfully, a lot of the super mutants died fighting the Talon Company, which made my life a lot easier. And then up here on the second floor of this decrepit building, we can find some ammunition boxes, some chems such as Psycho, also a copy of Grognak the Barbarian, a Stealth Boy, and a ton of baseballs. That's pretty good for the rocket launcher, but a ton of baseballs. I just thought that was really cool. Don't know why. I like baseballs, so there it is. Thank you very much, Past Otter, and I have to say, I still like those baseballs, even though I didn't take them. Now, if we go over to the north side of this little plaza area, we can find 3 shops, and the first one we're going to check out is Radiation King. If you don't know, Radiation King is a big pre-war company that's responsible for a lot of the radios and jukeboxes that we find throughout the Fallout universe. You can find a jukebox in here, we can find a lot of radios. In the bathroom, we can find some detergent, so, that might be useful if you need it for certain quest or something. And also, there's a lot of scrap metal underneath these radios here, and there's our friendly scavenger inside, as you saw. Those Talon Company mercs from a long time ago were still here, which I thought was kind of funny. Now, inside of the supermarket here, we find some rad roaches, and yeah, that's pretty easy to deal with. Now, there really isn't a whole lot in here. There is a first aid box, and also a safe in the ground there, just below the cash register. There's some bottle caps and stuff on the counter, some Mentats, and then, of course, that floor safe that didn't actually have a lot in it, but it will take all that we can get. But unfortunately, the supermarket does not have a lot in it. It appears that it may have been used by somebody at some point in time, which would make sense. Now, over here in this preservation shelter, we can find a Nuka-Cola Quantum and some beer bottles and food and stuff. So, yeah, you can take a look. Make sure you grab that Quantum and see what else you get. Now, real quick, I just wanted to point out these signs are really cool. We also have a Cup of Joe there, which is like Starbucks in the Fallout universe, but we cannot access the Cup of Joe. Now, over here, we have this like outdoor eating patio. However, there's no way to get in there. There's no door from the building. There's no way to enter from the outside. So, yeah, I don't actually know how that would work, but just a kind of funny thing I noticed. Now, going way back to the eastern side, I wanted to mention Law Mason Bureau Guard. This is an old pre-war hotel, and if you've completed Broken Steel, there's a little bit of a quest that involves this building, but it's not that important really. But yeah, that's one reason you might come here. Now inside, I found these 2 super mutant overlords, so I just had to get rid of them. Behind the counter here, we can find a copy of 30 handy flamethrower recipes, so make sure you pick that up. Also some beer and stuff on the floor. There is a cash register, but it's empty. Now using the fallen debris and stuff, we can walk up to the second floor floor here, where we can find a little bar and like the skeleton like leaning over. There's that radio there, don't know why it was on, and then a Nuka-Cola Quantum on the shelf, so make sure you pick that up. Then on the pool table we have some missiles and a mini nuke, and also a stealth boy and 2 stim packs, so make sure you pick all of that up. Pretty darn good loot for just a small little hotel lobby. And there you guys have it, Georgetown. Exploring and fighting my way through this area was a ton of fun. I have to say it kind of felt like, well, urban combat, which was difficult but a lot of fun. So yeah, I would highly recommend visiting here if you're looking for a challenge and also looking for some pretty good loot. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos, future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out the Freedom Street Station, which, as the name would indicate, is an old pre-war metro station in Washington, D.C. Now, this metro station has 3 entrances in which you can access it. 2 of these entrances can be found on Pennsylvania Avenue. One is right here, which is Penn Avenue North Station on the world map, and then the other is at Metro Central. You can access it through Metro Central, but Metro Central is actually quite a large train station, and then both of those exits will lead you through it, and then you come out in Vernon Square Station. And as you can see here on the world map, here we have Metro Central and Penn Avenue North, or Pennsylvania Avenue North. So yeah, just go to Pennsylvania Avenue and you can easily access this metro. Now I'm going in from Penn Avenue North just because that kind of starts us at the bottom of the station. Now immediately as we enter, there's going to be a Nuka-Cola machine. You can see what's inside for you, and a bunch of these bear traps. When I walked right into one of these bear traps, which is, well, a bit annoying. But as we continue our way through the metro station, we're going to find a bunch of feral ghouls. Not too big of a problem, especially with a combat shotgun. You can just blast their heads right off. Now, if we go right at the fork in the road, it's going to lead you into this little room. There's these, like, shelves with a bunch of street cones. Don't know why. There's also a first aid box with a lone stim pack, at least for me. If we go up the stairs, we can find a very friendly merchant. So that's kind of cool. So he is known as the Freedom Station Merchant. He's really just a scavenger. He can repair your stuff and also sell you some stuff. Now on the shelves over here, we actually have some pretty good loot. A lot of chems and stuff, but it is considered stealing. Also over here on this coffee table, we have a copy of Tumblers Today. Now, if we go all the way to the end here, we can find the entrance to Metro Central, like I mentioned. So Metro Central starts you a little bit further into the metro station. However, Metro Central will be a story for another day. Anyways, going back, if you go left at that fork in the road from earlier, you kind of be underneath the Freedom Station Merchant. You're going to find a bunch of these bear traps yet again. Open up these doors and you're going to come into this large sewer-like corridor, and you can go right or left. Now, if you go left like I did initially, you're going to come to this flooded compartment. And initially, I didn't see that there was a feral ghoul in here. Just kind of looking around, look above, and yeah, I didn't see anything. But then I noticed Dogmeat was fighting something. I looked around and I found one of these fuckheads, a feral ghoul reaver. I hate these things just because they're absolute bullet monkeys. They take about 45 seconds to kill for me on average. So I just call them 45-second ghouls because they just waste 45 seconds of time. But after coming out of the flooded compartment and going back and going right, we will just find these barrels of radioactive material. We'll find some more just normal feral ghouls that are pretty easy to deal with. But, well, no problem compared to a revenant. Anyways, we'll go upstairs and then we just kind of come to this section where it is above the flooded compartment. Now, if you go left here, there's some crates and stuff. There's nothing over there, though, just kind of, well, pointless. Then if you go right, well, we can continue going up the stairs. You might find some more feral ghouls. This guy kind of jump scared me, but hey, no problem. Just kind of just kill him eventually. And then just keep making your way through. Again, you're going to keep finding feral ghouls, but as far as loot, there really isn't a whole lot. So yeah, just want to keep pushing your way through. And eventually, after killing this roamer here, I found the Vernon Square exit. So that pretty much sums up Freedom Station. A pretty small station, but a very significant link in between Pennsylvania Avenue and Vernon Square, as you can see there on the world map. So let me know if you guys have any experiences within Freedom Station. I'd be interested to hear. I really like the little merchant in here. I have no idea why he chooses to live his life with all of these feral ghouls, but obviously he's trying to compensate with it because of all the bear traps. I'm just going to assume he placed them all down. But yeah, it seems like you should just kill the feral ghouls or find a new place to live. Alright guys, that pretty much covers this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out Vernon Square, which is a large city square and neighborhood located in the northwestern part of Washington, D.C. However, in the game, it's kind of like in the central part of D.C., but hey, it doesn't really matter because, well, the devs did the best they could given the technology at the time. Now, I'm sure that most people will remember Vernon Square for the Statesman Hotel and Our Lady of Hope Hospital and their connection to Riley's Rangers, which is, of course, a side quest in Fallout 3 that is pretty famous. Now here you can see the location of Vernon Square in the world map, and there are various locations here, like I said before, the Statesman Hotel and Vault-Tec HQ. However, in this video we will not be covering those named locations in depth because they're stories for a different video, because it's going to take a lot of time to go into those places. So we're just going to be covering the basic Vernon Square and some of the unmarked locations within. Now as you come out here from the Vernon Station, you're going to find a super mutant up on this like skywalk area, so I just used my Black Hawk to get rid of him. And there are two entrances actually into Vernon Station. The other entrance can be found over here, which leads to the Metro Junction. And Metro Junction actually provides access to the northern part of Vernon Square, along with some other metros across the DC area. Now the Statesman Hotel here pretty much dominates the southern part of Vernon Square. Off in the distance you can see the Our Lady of Hope Hospital, where a portion of it is kind of collided or collapsed into the Statesman Hotel, which of course we will talk about in a future video. But once you get near this location, you can now get the Riley's Rangers like radio frequency, and you can find their distress signal. Obviously they are stranded on top of the Statesman Hotel. Now right outside the Statesman Hotel, you're going to find this huge crater, and at the bottom of this crater you're going to find a Delta 9 rocket. Now this rocket was actually commissioned in 2020 by the United States Space Administration, the USSSA. There is no NASA in the Fallout universe, and it was used for 15 years going to the moon and stuff like that before it was repurposed for military use and replaced with a nuclear warhead as its payload. Now this rocket also appears in Fallout New Vegas, and something really interesting about its design is for whatever reason it features a classic American flag with 50 stars on it. Of course, in the Fallout universe in 1969, the United States reorganized into 13 commonwealths in order to just have better control over the country, and they reorganized the flag as well to have 13 stars on it. Also, the Valiant 11, or the lunar lander in the Fallout universe, which landed at the same time as Apollo 11 in our timeline, features this Commonwealth flag. So it's not really known why they have this 50-star flag on it, but it doesn't really matter either. Now, if you want to investigate the rocket for yourself, I do recommend taking a bunch of Rad-X because it is highly radioactive. But next to the rocket, we can find an entrance to this sewer, and down here you're going to find some super mutants, which now make this irradiated sewer their home. Down here we can find some pretty good loot, some Radaway, Rad-X, we can find some ammunition, mine boxes, and of course a copy of the DC Journal of Internal Medicine, so that's really good. Make sure you pick up that, and also a stealth boy on that shelf. After that, just went around killing the rest of the super mutants. I don't know why this super mutant went flying into the air, but I thought it was pretty funny. Now something you're going to notice in Vernon Square as you kind of travel around to different places, sometimes super mutants will spawn behind you, just like in this sewer here. These super mutants entered behind me, just kind of creating an interesting combat situation. In fact, Riley's Rangers say that Vernon Square has the second largest concentration of super mutants in the DC area. Now outside we have these two collapsed buildings that are connected by a skyway. When we first entered, we killed that one super mutant, but as I came up here near the crater, I found these super mutants were fighting the Talon Company, so I kind of helped the Talon Company first, and then I exploded the Talon Company, and then I killed the rest of the super mutants with the help of Dogmeat. Now in this corner here where the Talon Company spawned, we can find the entrance to another sewer. Honestly, it's probably the same sewer system, just it's blocked locked off and, we can't access it through it. But up here we can find a tripwire, so do be careful. But this is pretty much the only hostile thing in here. And besides that, there's no enemies or anything. And because of that, this sewer is actually safe for player housing. So you can safely store your items and stuff in here. There's a lot of beds for sleeping, which is good. Now, inside of the average locked room, we can find some healing items. And then on the table, we can find a copy of Dean's Electronics. So that'll help your repair skill, which is pretty good. And over here, we can find some ammunition boxes and stuff like that. Behind the table, there's an easy locked safe. And then there is a gun cabinet right beside the safe. So you want to loot that and also see what is inside. For me, it was just some ammunition. Now, like I was saying, you can use this place as player housing if you want a player house within the downtown DC area. This would be a reliable and safe place. There's also a fast travel point, relatively nearby. Now, as I came back outside, I wanted to kind of just follow the street. There is this truck and all of this rubble. Unfortunately, we cannot get into the back of the truck. There's going to be a mailbox and a Nuka-Cola machine. You can see if there's a quantum in there for you. For me, there wasn't. Now, I tried to get up to that truck, but I couldn't. Now, this building that is next to the sewer, I'm not sure what it was, if it's an old school or just an old office building, but whatever it is now being used by super mutants as a kind of base or a camp. Now, do be careful. There's going to be a lot of traps in there. I just set off those grenades. Now, over here, we have a ticketing booth, so it appears that this parking area or something they would charge people to use. You can see a little intercom system there. Back inside, when I came through here a second time, some super mutants spawned inside. So like I said, in Vernon Square, super mutants will spawn just from time to time. Not sure what happened here, but there was explosions going off, probably a gas leak, and that super mutant just blew up because of my flamer, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, you want to loot around this area because you can find first aid kits. There's also this easy lock safe. There's this cabinet, so just kind of loot around, see what you can find, because yeah, there's some decent loot inside as far as ammo and chems and healing items. Now, just around on the other side, you can find this preservation shelter. Inside, you will find a skeleton, I hope it's dead, and then a radiation suit and some Rad-X. So obviously they were trying to survive the nuclear apocalypse, but they failed. Now, in the building opposite or across from that building we just explored, we can find, a mine that'll almost kill me, and through the ruins of this building, you can find the entrance to Our Lady of Hope Hospital. But in this building, there is far less loot. There's some ammunition boxes and stuff as you climb up to the 3rd floor, and of course, we have that skyway that we talked about earlier that connects these two destroyed buildings. I'm not sure how these buildings were both so destroyed, yet this skywalk remains intact. But hey, I won't question it. It looks cool as heck. Now over here, you can actually jump onto the little ticketing area or the tollway. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool to mention. Also, you can get some good views of the crater from there. Now, as you go to the northern part of Vernon Square here, you're going to find this very tiny passage through this building. And actually, that'll take you to the northern part of Vernon Square. But before we go that, we want to go to the northeast where we can find Vernon Square East. This is a metro station that'll lead you to Takoma Park. But for now, we don't want to go to Takoma Park. We want to go to North Vernon Square. I just thought I'd go ahead and point it out. There's some ammunition and some healing items and then a trash bin that had nothing in it for me. Now, as you come through this small little alleyway, you're going to find a super mutant camp next to these statues. So yeah, just go ahead and take out the super mutants. Now, you want to be careful here because as you make your way around these statues, some more super mutants will spawn behind you, which could create a very sticky situation, especially if you're a higher level. These will probably be super mutant masters or super mutant overlords. Now, speaking of a super mutant overlord, after I looted their little camp here, which had some good ammunition and stuff, I found a super mutant overlord just outside of this camp, and man, he was dealing a ton of damage to me. Not sure why his tri-laser rifle was so effective against me, but yeah, anyways, yeah, look at that. My health was just being eaten up. But eventually, Dog Meat came to save the day. and I was able to kill him really easily with the help of dog meat. Now the station which this overlord was guarding is Vernon Square North, and actually this leads you to the Metro Junction that I mentioned earlier. Now you can obviously loot the super mutant to see what you have on them. Over here on this bench there are 2 rigged combat shotguns. I accidentally sat right on top of the shotgun. I would not recommend doing that. It seems like an easy way to shoot your own ass. Then over here we have the Vault Tech headquarters. Again, we'll cover this in a future video, but I just thought I would point it out that it is right here next to Vernon Square North. And there you guys have it, Vernon Square and some of its connected places. Now, of course, we did miss 2 or 3 major locations, but we'll cover those in a future video, I promise. As far as Vernon Square, fighting in here is really fun. It really feels like urban combat, just because you never know when some super mutants are going to show up behind you or ambush you. Even if you cleared out a building, you might find some super mutants just wandering through there once again. So it just makes it feel like, well, realistic urban combat, so I gotta give it to Bethesda there. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any recommendations or ideas for future locations or future videos, please post them in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we're going to be checking out Abernathy Station, which is also known as Vernon East Metro Station, and this links directly to Takoma Station, so it's kind of like 2 train stations in one. Now on the world map, as you can see here, it is marked as Vernon East, despite that not being its actual name in the game. It's Abernathy Station. But anyways, it's right here, kind of in the middle part of Vernon Square, just north of the Statesman Hotel. Outside, there's going to be this ammunition box and a first aid box, so you can take a look inside and see what you find. Do come prepared, because there will be a lot of enemies inside of the station. This station is a part of the White Line. We can see it right there, Vernon Square, Abernathy, where we are now, and then Takoma Station. Not sure what happened to that Becton station, but yeah, perhaps it was just destroyed. Anyways, immediately as we go in, I was fired upon by these super mutants. There was a bunch of super mutant masters in here. For me, it will vary depending on your level. But once you deal with the super mutants, right here as we enter, there's like this ticket booth. You're going to want to go inside, or you can grab it just through the window, because we can find a copy of Lying Congressional Style. As we make our way further in, we're going to find the actual train platform, and there will be some more super mutants in here. At this point though, the super mutants were only brutes. I don't know why they like de-leveled or got easier, but hey, I was not going to complain. Anyways, just go ahead and kill all of the super mutants, and from here you can either go east or west. So first we're going to go down the western tunnel. This is actually a dead end. There's going to be some frag mines. With this one frag mine underneath the fence, I actually could not disarm. It's kind of glitched. So just be careful about it. Don't blow yourself up like I did. But like I said, this is a dead end. This just appears to be a super mutant camp. And in here we can find a Nuka-Cola Quantum on the shelf. So that's pretty darn good. And then we can also find some random junk and stuff. There are some beds, so you can sleep back here to get your health back up like I did. Now as we make our way down the eastern tunnel, this will take us to Takoma Station. And you're also going to notice that the enemies are going to change. For me, they were these Mirelurk Kings. Again, depending on your character's level, you will have, well, different enemies. So for me, it was Kings, and for you, it might just be normal Mirelurks or Mirelurk Hunters. Now, about halfway through, I found this, like, floating concrete block. I just thought it was kind of interesting, kind of funny, and then I would point it out. And it does have hit detection, so you can stand right on top of it, and then I guess you're floating as well. But anyways, I just kind of sped this up because it's just a linear train track that's partially flooded, so just make your way through, and eventually you're going to come to Takoma Station. And once again, once I got to the actual station bit, the enemies like de-leveled and they were just not as high for some reason. Don't know why that is. Now inside of Takoma Station, there's going to be a huge pile of rubble that you can actually climb up. However, before you do this, you're going to want to save. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck behind it and you're going to have to reload, well, at least one prior save. But anyways, in this corner here, you can kind of just finagle your way up. Just keep jumping and jumping. You get to the ceiling here, just keep tapping Y or space or whatever your jump button is, and eventually you can fall behind all of this rubble. However, once you're behind it, there is no way back. So again, you have to reload your save. Of course, Bethesda did not mean for you to get back here, so it's a bit glitchy. You can kind of see through the walls and stuff. It's kind of cool if you're into glitches or just like Dr. Bosch kind of things. So just thought I'd point it out that it is indeed in here, but once you're here, there is no escape. Also, there's this really long portion to the rubble where you can almost get out, but yeah, there's an invisible wall that stops you. Now, as we make our way to Takoma Park and to leave the metro, we're going to find some more Mirelurks here, so just get rid of them. Then in the men's restroom, we can find something of interest in the last stall here. If you open it up, we can find a Mirelurk egg in the toilet, and this Mirelurk egg has soft shell meat, which is a little bit rare. So yeah, you can pick it up and, well, eat it or cook it or do whatever you want with it. Now in the women's bathroom, there is, well, nothing of interest. There are some Mirelurk eggs, so of course you can loot them and see what you find. Now in this ticket booth, there's this wooden plank here that prevents you from getting inside, and there's nothing of interest in that ticket booth. And then with that, we will go to Takoma Park. But that is a story for another day. And there you guys have it, Abernathy Station and Takoma Station. These two stations are connected, and they just make up one large metro area. Honestly, this is pretty much just a location that connects two important areas, but hey, it's still kind of interesting and just another location to check off the list. Let me know if you guys have any memories within this metro or any experiences. I would be very interested to know. I'm very excited for my Takoma Park video just because a lot of you have recommended it, so I hope you guys are looking forward to it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. And until next time. And then with that, we will go to Takoma Park. Takoma Park. I have to say, Takoma Park is one of the strangest locations in any Fallout game. After visiting this location, it feels more like a weird fever dream, like it didn't happen. It's just some kind of weird memory. It almost doesn't feel real, but I mean, obviously it is. But this whole location is just weird. It feels kind of incomplete, but it feels kind of cool. There's some interesting things going on, and it was recommended by many of you, including Mascamulus Smith 8088, Deficatum 3332, who has been a huge supporter of this channel, so big shout out to him, and then Power Ghost Senior. Now, many people on the internet, including Deficatum, say they have trouble finding this place, which is what kind of gives it its weird fever dream feeling when you're visiting and after you visited. So at the end of the video, I will do my best to give a little tutorial about how to get here. The easiest way I can say, like you can see here on the world map, is to go to the Statesman Hotel. Of course, if you've done the quest with Riley's Rangers, you probably can fast travel there, and this goes directly north of the Statesman Hotel, and you will find Vernon East, and then you can take that here to Takoma Park. Now, when you first arrive at Takoma Park, it seems quite peaceful. There's no enemies, and we just have some empty shops. There's this old bank over here. There's an old thrift shop, so, you know, just kind of normal pre-war shenanigans. There's this bus over here, but don't let your guard down for too long, because very quickly you will be ambushed by some super mutants, and one of them will have a missile launcher, and this will send everything just flying around. It sends like baby carriages flying at you, then they start shooting you, explosions going off, just craziness. I'm surprised I didn't die, but with my flamer and my power armor, we were able to get through it. Also, dog meat played a big role as always. And I have to say, the enemies in Takoma Park are pretty challenging. Super mutant overlords, and later we'll see some pretty high feral ghouls. So yeah, make sure you are ready for a fight, especially if you're a higher level. Now over here we have an old supermarket. There's a first aid box here. There's also 3 boxes of sugar bombs just lying around. You can check out this Nuka-Cola vending machine. For me, there was Quantum inside. Of course, that's just RNG. And there's those sugar bombs I was talking about, which are always useful if you want to make the special jet with the sugar bombs. Now, if you come back down to the thrift store, we can find an interesting item inside. Obviously, an old thrift store, there is not a whole lot of interest, actually pretty much nothing of interest besides a hat that you just saw there on that hat rack. But in the entrance on that hat rack, we can find the Takoma Park Little Leaguer cap, and this will, for, well, some reason, increase your explosive and melee weapon skills by 5 each. Don't know why that is, kind of weird that a baseball cap from a Little League team would do that. But yeah, then that baby carriage decided to blow up, which scared the crap out of me. As we make our way up the street, we will find a small super mutant camp, so just go ahead and take out the super mutants. For me, they were just super mutant brutes, so not too difficult to take care of. The building on my left there has some really kind of creepy statues coming out of it, those heads, but anyways, we have this preservation shelter here with a dead wastelander, and also there's an ammunition box so you can see what you find inside. Now before we go any further, we want to come back to this rubble pile because we can get in the back of this truck. There's 2 skeletons, not sure what was going on in the back of it, but we can find some stim packs and a lot of ammunition with some 5mm rounds, so that's pretty darn good. But again, don't know why those people died, but too bad for them. Now moving up to that camp, the super mutant camp, we can find a lone tent here. Inside we can find 2 first aid kits and then 2 ammunition boxes. So definitely make sure you loot through all of this and see what you get. One of the ammunition boxes is locked, so you need to pick it. For me, there were just missiles inside, but those will come in handy later. Now across from the super mutant camp, there's an old barber shop, but yeah, we cannot go inside. Now as we come to the end of the street, you're going to find this house you can enter, and there is gas inside this house, and it kept lighting me on fire. So yeah, just be aware of that. It kept pushing me to the ground. Didn't kill me, but yeah, it was quite annoying. But eventually we're able to stand up and get through the house. And when we get to the backyard, it just feels like we're not in downtown DC anymore. And I guess, yeah, we're kind of on the outskirts of DC on the eastern side. We have these 2 backyards that we can enter, but the other backyards on the western side, we cannot get into them. There's just an invisible wall here, which I thought was kind of annoying. So yeah, we have no choice but to proceed south. But yeah, I wish I could get over there, but maybe one day we will find a way. Now as we come down, there is a major battle going on between super mutants and the Talon Company. This is directly outside of Takoma Industrial with this radioactive pond there. This firefight was pretty chaotic. There was explosions going on and stuff like that. But I just kind of ran in and killed the Talon Company, and then I wiped up the remaining super mutants. This super mutant master was just in the corner, like having PTSD or something. I have no clue what he was doing, but he was refusing to fight. It felt a little bad to get rid of him, but hey, can't trust a super mutant. But anyways, we took out all of the enemies, and from here I decided to go west, and we will talk about Takoma Industrial later, just because I feel like it's one of the more interesting locations here. Now, as you come to the western side of the industrial building, you can go up on top of these 2 trucks here, but there's really nothing of interest. Now, there's this 3rd truck over here, and up here we can find a dead mercenary, who apparently used to be a Talon Company merc. On him is an artillery note that tells us about some of the shenanigans that the Talon Company is getting up to here. Basically, they used to control Takoma Park, and now they want to regain control of it, and this guy had a switch that will allow the Talon Company to target this location with missiles, so that sounds pretty cool. So we will use that switch for ourselves to attack this super mutant behemoth. But before we do that, we can find some first aid boxes and stuff on this table and under the table, so we'll go ahead and loot all of that, and then we will activate this switch and it'll start raining down missiles on top of these super mutants. Then I use my own missile launcher to try and do some damage and finish them off. Then there was the Washington Monument in the background. Honestly, while this looks really freaking cool, it's kind of impractical. Because the super mutants are such high levels, these missiles do very little damage to them, and it took me about 2.5 minutes to clear out all the super mutants, and that's not even including the super mutant behemoth, who just really didn't care about the missiles whatsoever. So eventually I switched to a fat man, he started charging me, and that was the end of him. So yeah, pretty easy to deal with it with a fat man. Now, thankfully, the super mutant behemoth did have another mini nuke on him, so I didn't really lose a mini nuke, got one back. Then I wiped up the survivors, and yeah, this area was now clear. Now over here we have Takoma Motor, which is an unmarked location. Inside, the visuals kind of changed to something from Fallout New Vegas. There's an old car in here that was probably being worked on when the bombs fell. And then behind the desk here, we can find a copy of 30 handy flamethrower recipes, so make sure you pick up that skill book. Now, if we go over to the western part here of Takoma Park, there really isn't a whole lot. There's just a bunch of cars and stuff. Obviously, this is just kind of meant for a sandbox for those missiles to have fun and just catch some cool visuals. But again, if you're a high level, unfortunately, the missiles are a little bit impractical, But yeah, it does look freaking cool, and it feels pretty rewarding to call in a missile strike in Fallout. Now, as I came back, there were some Robo-Brains and some Talon Company mercs that had spawned. As you go through Takoma Park, you will routinely notice enemies spawning behind you, which makes this place feel kind of alive. So yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess. So yeah, just take out enemies as they spawn. You always have to be on your heels because you never know what's going to happen. This Talon Company merc came flying out the door with a knife. Not sure what his idea was, but yeah, he got turned into dust. Now, going into Takoma Industrial, going into the factory, we will find it is occupied by super mutants. So not sure what that Talon Company merc was doing in here, or how he got in, or how he got out, but yeah. Anyways, as you enter the front door, we can find a copy of Lying Congressional Style on the bottom shelf of the bookshelf. And then as I came into the next room, this super mutant came flying out of that door. He was almost flying. He was really pissed at me. But yeah, I disintegrated him as well. Now after that, we can go to the second floor here, and there's going to be a door to the outside. And this door leads us to one of the most magical places in Fallout 3, if I do say so myself. It's definitely one of the strangest locations. And for me, it doesn't feel real when I think about it again. It seems like a weird mod or something. But anyways, we come to the back of the factory. There's this like small canal here. There's going to be some super mutants here and a tent. So yeah, go ahead and kill all of the super mutants. That way you don't have to worry about them. You can loot the tent. Inside we can find a dead Talon Company merc. Don't know what happened to him, but probably a miserable death. Some first aid boxes and some ammunition boxes. Now if you just go to the south, you're going to find these ramps that just lead you to the front of the factory. So yeah, there's really no point to go this way until you're ready to leave. So just thought I would mention where it takes you, but yeah, for now we don't want to go that way. Now if you go to the east, you're going to find this pile of rubble and an invisible wall. Now some people will use this pile of rubble to jump across the canal. I struggled to do that, but it is possible if you finagle it properly. But I found a different area where we can jump across the canal. Now, at first, it might not seem like you're supposed to go across the canal, but lo and behold, you are. If we head back to where we entered this weird little area, you're going to find this like collapsed radio tower, and you can walk along this little beam here and get to the other side. Now, you have to jump at a little bit of an awkward angle. You kind of want to walk sideways or parallel with the radio mast and then jump, and then you can jump up on the side here like I did. You're going to find this alley, and you're going to follow this alley to the back where you're going to find a radioactive pond. And there's going to be some vertebrates that fly over as you enter this area. So you're supposed to be here, but this just feels like a really weird area. And if you look at the world map, you're actually outside the boundaries of the world map. And this is the camp of Isabella Proud. Now, Isabella Proud's corpse should be here along with her partner, but I couldn't find it. And also there's supposed to be feral ghouls here. So I laid down a save and I quit the game. This is a really useful method on Xbox if you're playing on Xbox. Of course, it might work on PC as well. But when I reloaded the save, the ghouls were they had now spawned, and also Isabella's corpse was here. Now back here though, Dogmeat did not follow me for whatever reason, and I had these damn feral ghoul reavers, or just one, but man, I really hate these reavers. I think they're the worst enemy in Fallout 3, just because they're absolute bullet sponges, and they deal a hefty amount of damage, and without Dogmeat, it's really annoying. Thankfully, I was able to finagle myself into a corner, that way he couldn't hit me. Now, over here we can find the bodies of Jason and Isabella Proud, and if we go to that terminal in the camp, we can learn a little bit about Isabella. She was a scientist who was very interested in ghouls and ghoulification, and she was studying the ghouls here. And as we read through her journals, we learn that she found a glowing one that appeared to be the leader of the feral ghouls, and she named this glowing one Samuel. After you read all of her journal entries, we can find Samuel at the entrance. For me, he was glitched out, but Samuel will unfortunately attack us, and he was freaking the fuck out. I mean, man, his head was going like 1,000,000 miles per hour. So, yeah, he's also going absolutely batshit crazy. But yeah, I just burned him to death, and that was the end of it. So hopefully I was able to help you out a bit, Samuel, putting you out of your misery. Now, this pond is highly radiated. If you go in, make sure you use some Rad-X. There's nothing in the pond, though. Now, the strangest thing here is it seems like Bethesda just forgot to put invisible barriers, because you can hop over any of the rubble and just exit the map. There's no problem whatsoever. This is by far the easiest map exit glitch I've seen in any Fallout game, but this, guys, will be a story for another day. Now, back inside of the factory, there is still a Nuka-Cola Quantum, which we can collect, and there's also some super mutants that we need to get rid of. Now, on the factory floor, there isn't anything of interest besides junk. Now, if we come to the western second floor, you can find this little upstairs area, and you can loot around. There is a rigged terminal, so don't activate that unless, well, you want to explode it. There is a first aid box in here and an ammunition box, just typical Fallout loot. Now over here we have this little wooden staircase and a skeleton, and then we can find a Nuka-Cola Quantum behind this generator. Now as we come up to the eastern second floor, there really isn't anything of interest up here besides an exit, and there are multiple exits out of this factory. There's one on that level, and then down on the first floor here too, we can find another exit that leads us near where that missile launcher device was. And there you guys have it, Takoma Park, a very interesting location in Fallout 3, and a place that, well, feels like a weird fever dream. I do think I've been here before when I was like a young lad, but I'm not for sure. It just is a really weird place that doesn't really feel real, but obviously it is. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos or future locations, please post them in the comment section down below. And as I promised, here is a quick tutorial about how to access Takoma Park. Now, full disclaimer, I don't know if this is the fastest way to get there. It probably isn't, but this is, in my opinion, the easiest way to get there. We're going to start at Rivet City and Anacostia Station, which is right next to Rivet City. As we go into Anacostia Station, just stay on the second floor. Do not go to the platform and go straight across. This will take you to Seward Square. Now, the first time you come to Seward Square, it's going to be an absolute war zone. And if you come here and again, you might find more enemies, so just be prepared for a fight. We're just going to go towards the Capitol building, go inside of this metro. There's going to be ghouls in here the first time. And when we come out, we're going to be at Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, from here, we're just going to want to go to the northwest. We're going to go past Metro Central. We're going to go past this little parking garage, and then eventually we're going to find Freedom Station. This place is going to be infested with feral ghouls. Just make your way through it, and eventually you're going to find Vernon Square, as you can see here. Now, from Vernon Square, you just want to head a bit to the east, and you're going to find the Statesman Hotel, and then head to your north, and you will find Vernon East Station, or Abernathy Station. And from Abernathy Station, it's just a linear path through the station to Takoma Station. My previous video was about it, so if you need a more detailed guide how to get through it, you can check it out. But I think it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to get through. So yeah, there you guys have it. That's how you can access Takoma Park. I hope you guys can access it and experience this place for yourself. If you're still watching, thank you so much for watching, and I would love to hear about your experiences here at Takoma Park, so please post them in the comment section down below. As always, guys, until next time. In my last video, I talked about how Takoma Park just kind of feels like a weird fever dream. You know, it's not very easy to find, and when you do go there, it's usually quick. You go in there, kill everything, get the loot, and then you're out, and you never go back. And from this view, looking at Takoma Park on the horizon like it's some kind of mirage, and yeah, you can definitely get the feeling that this is all a weird fever dream. But obviously, this is very real, and Takoma Park is one of the glitchiest areas I've seen in any Fallout game, which means I absolutely love it. So in this video, we're going to be checking out the area outside of Takoma Park, looking at some of the interesting things that is there, and checking out like how it was built by Bethesda, and of course just going full Dr. Bosch. And I just wanted to mention, as it would so happen, the glitchiness just starts right at Takoma Station before you even enter Takoma Park. There's this large mountain of rubble right in the middle of the platform. You can actually climb all the way to the very top and then jump over it. However, do make sure to drop a quick save because there is no way back over the mountain of rubble. You're just kind of stuck behind here, and truth be told, there's really not much behind here, so there's not much point, but just thought I'd mention it. Now here's Takoma Park on the world map. It's on the far eastern part of the map. We're going to start at Takoma Industrial, because that is where we can easily get out of the map. Now the first time you come to Takoma Industrial, there's going to be a huge firefight outside. Here we have the Talon Company fighting some super mutants. So yeah, just go ahead and go in there and take them out however you want, or you can just sit back and enjoy the fireworks. It is completely up to you. Now it is worth mentioning, if you come through here after initially clearing it, there still might be some enemies that respawn or some other enemies that just kind of spawn in. Such is the way of Takoma Park. It almost feels like this place is alive and watching you. Anyways, we want to go in through the front entrance here of the factory. Immediately you're going to find this super mutant, so just go ahead and kill him. There's going to be a few super mutants in this factory, but we really don't need to go that far through the factory to get to where we want to go. As you come to your left from the initial entrance, you're going to see this rather large staircase on your left. This will take you to the second floor. You're going to want to go up this staircase and then go out through the door, and this will take you to the back of Takoma Industrial. Just knock that skeleton right out of the way. Now from here you want to go down. You're going to notice this little canal with a radio mast in the middle, or part of a radio mast. You're going to want to jump across this canal using this radio mast. You can jump on this little bar here, make your way across, and then from up here you can kind of jump at an angle like so towards the pipe, and you'll be on the other side of the canal. From here you just want to follow this path and you're going to find the irradiated pond back here. This is a location you're supposed to visit, even though it's technically on the outside part of the map. You can see where I am on the world map now. Here we can find the bodies of Isabella Proud and her partner, another researcher. I talked about that in my previous video, so if you want to know more about it, you can check out that video. But just behind their little camp, there's a pile of rubble that we can jump up just like so, and then we can just kind of finagle our way here and then just walk out of the map. There is an invisible wall, unfortunately, right here that kind of prohibits you from going further to the north, but yeah, that's okay. It's not important, because if we just go directly to the east, kind of southeast here, we can easily get outside of the map. This might be the easiest map exit glitch I know of in any Fallout game. Now, the first thing I wanted to check out was this elevated highway over here that has since collapsed, or at least the middle portion has collapsed. This is where the two vertibirds kind of fly when you first go to the irradiated pond. There is a bus way at the top. I tried to blow up the bus, but it doesn't seem to actually respond to explosives. I was firing these missiles at it and, well, nothing seemed to happen. But yeah, kind of funny that there is a bus hanging down from that freeway. It's kind of a cool detail by Bethesda that I'm sure most people would miss. Now, interestingly enough, the highways here do have hit detection. If you try and jump into the column or something, it'll bounce you off. Now, if you watch my Fallout New Vegas videos, then you know pretty much all of the highways outside of the map have 0 hit detection, so I just thought it was kind of interesting that these actually do have hit detection. Now, most of the buildings, though, do not have hit detection, especially these poorly textured buildings. Obviously, they're just meant to be viewed from far away to add to kind of the feeling of being in downtown DC. I do have to admit, though, they look really creepy. Here we can see part of a radio mast that is kind of collapsed into that building. From the other side, you can kind of see the look that Bethesda was going for. But continuing around, this building here, which is actually kind of attached to the canal area, does have hit detection. Now, as we make our way to the western part of Takoma Park, we can find this rather large roadway that makes its way through Takoma Park. It acts as the barrier where you find that super mutant behemoth, and also it connected to the entrance of Takoma Park. I didn't really realize that that little plaza where you find the behemoth and the initial plaza area with the thrift store and the grocery store are so close together. They're just barely separated by this pile of rubble. Now, we cannot continue all the way down the roadway because there is an invisible wall right when we get near the entrance to Takoma Station, so now we're going to have to use this pile of rubble to go around. Now, as I was going around, I found the Washington Monument off in the distance. Also, there's a building here with a door. This building does have hit detection. I wanted to try and reach the door because you could really start at the beginning of like a Dr. Bosch kind of thing, but fortunately I couldn't reach the door, and I highly doubt it would do anything anyway. Now, after this, I decided to go check out this really uncanny, lonesome, kind of scary Washington Monument, which really does look like something out of a fever dream just sitting out here on this flat plain. However, the Washington Monument doesn't really have anything special about it. As you get closer, the texture kind of glitches out, which I thought was funny. It becomes like even less detailed, and then when you go inside of it, well, yeah, you just phase through it. and yeah, you just have like this weird skeleton of the monument. And from here is where I caught that opening shot of Takoma Park, which I just thought was a kind of creepy view of Takoma Park, and I really like it. Now, as I made my way back to Takoma Park, I just thought this one building here was really creepy looking, but yeah, you just face right through it. But like I said before, that almost makes it even more creepy. Anyways, after that, I kind of wanted to see what these buildings were like, and over here along the entrance to Takoma Park, the bank building is actually our ticket back into the map. You can actually just jump over the invisible barrier, and then yeah, you're back in the map and back to reality, or I guess it's a video game, but back to the reality of the game. So after that, I made my way to like the eastern side of Takoma Park, and I wanted to try and get to these houses and like this like rocky area as you come out of the city area towards Takoma Industrial. There is an invisible wall here though, so you cannot re-enter the map. And whenever you decide to explore outside the map, be careful because you might jump into an area where you get stuck and then you have to reload a save. You don't have to reload too far back. Luckily, I didn't. Now, when I made this video, I was intrigued by these backyards because of what I said in my last video. We have these two backyards that we can enter, but the other backyards on the western side, we cannot get into them. There's just an invisible wall here, which I thought was kind of annoying. So yeah, therefore my goal in this video was to reach those backyards that I couldn't get to in the last video. Now, I was a little bit concerned about how to get there just because of the way the map is shaped. I thought maybe there could be an invisible barrier just surrounding those yards. Luckily, there isn't. If you go to that roadway from earlier, you can kind of jump in that pile of rubble that's dividing the beginning of Takoma Park from the end of Takoma Park, and then you can kind of finagle your way into this decrepit building. Now, it's going to take a lot of jumping and some figuring out, but eventually you can get lucky and you can jump onto this top piece of rubble. And for me, I did this just by holding forward on the joystick and just pressing Y as much as I could. And then up here though, really at first I thought it was a dead end because you're surrounded by invisible walls, but I didn't realize you can just walk backwards. I thought I was going to fall out of the building, but no, you just walk onto this house. You can then fall down and then walk straight to where all of those backyards are. However, do be careful because this first backyard is actually a prison. It is impossible to get out of this yard. Thankfully, I saved when I reached that top piece of rubble in the building, so just a quick reload and a quick hop, jump, and skip, and we were back where we wanted to go. And here is that backyard that is normally inaccessible. All of the items in here we can pick up. The swing doesn't actually move though, but all the other items like those wooden boxes, that shopping cart, and this baby carriage we can all pick up and throw around. However, we cannot interact with the sofa in any way. It's just kind of a prop for obviously design. Obviously, if a sofa was sitting out in the elements for over 200 years, I think it would be in a lot worse shape. Anyways, after that, we can make our way down back towards Takoma Industrial. And I reckon if you had a sniper rifle and you had some enemies in front of you, this would be a pretty darn good vantage point to snipe your enemies. Of course, though, you probably already cleared them just to get to where I am now. And there is an invisible wall where this fence is, so we cannot jump out, which is kind of unfortunate. We have to go all the way back around, back to the bank in order to get out. And that pretty much sums out the outside area of Takoma Park. This little area gives us a pretty good insight into how Bethesda built a lot of these downtown areas. Of course, you can always see the Washington Monument in a lot of these areas, but yeah, usually it's this low texture version that is just there for the player to see. Of course, the Washington Monument is actually in Fallout 3, but that is a story for another day. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any ideas or recommendations for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Today we'll be checking out the Pennsylvania Avenue / the Mall Metro. This is just a single metro station that connects Pennsylvania Avenue to the mall. This is a very quick little transition point from Pennsylvania Avenue to the mall. It's very convenient and quick to get through, but just because it's short doesn't mean it doesn't have its fair share of interesting things. So let's go ahead and check it out. Now here on the world map, you can see Pennsylvania Avenue South and then the mall northeast. These are the two stations that are connected. We're going to be starting at Pennsylvania Avenue, but you can obviously start at the mall if you want. Now as we make our way in, there's going to be a metal box right next to the entrance, but there's nothing of value inside of it. As we immediately go in, we can see that maybe somebody used to inhabit this place because we have these flaming barrels. However, we are immediately confronted with a feral ghoul. Thankfully though, a sneak attack rendered him, well, dead immediately. After that, there are some lockers and some other junk, and there's going to be quite a few feral ghouls within this area. I just kind of crouched and was able to take them all out from afar, except for that glowing one, but dog meat helped me out. And as we make our way into the main station area, we're going to find that this place used to be inhabited by what appears to be wastelanders. They have like a radio here, like some tables and ammunition boxes, stuff like that. There's also a human skull on the bookcase. Don't know what's going on there. There are some weird things going on in this station though, with maybe what are supposedly wastelanders. But yeah, we can loot these ammunition boxes, one of which is a very easy lock. And then there's also what appears to be like a Brahmin skeleton, maybe some kind of animal skeleton. Then over by the escalator we can find another dead wastelander. This one has a lot of chems on her body, so yeah, you can loot it and see what you can find. Over here next to this flaming barrel we can find a dead raider, so perhaps there was some kind of shootout between this raider and the wastelanders. Then all of the ruckus and noise maybe brought the feral ghouls in. I don't know, at least that's what happened in my head canon. As we make our way down to the platform, all of the tunnels are caved in, but on the middle platform we can find 3 skeletons with blood under them. It appears that they've been thrown off from a high area or something. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but maybe those wastelanders were not so innocent after all. I have no clue what was going on down here, but yeah, it's not a pretty sight, that is for sure. After that, that's pretty much all there is in this little station. To make our way out, there is a Nuka-Cola machine. You can see if there is a quantum in there if you're feeling lucky. And then we can find the exit to the mall northeast. As soon as we exited, we found some super mutants, but yeah, they're pretty low levels for me, so yeah, I took them out without a problem. And that pretty much sums up this small little metro station, Penn Avenue to the mall. This small little metro serves as a good example of environmental storytelling with the 2 dead wastelanders and the dead raider. We can only assume that something went down between these 2 groups, and then we have all of the skeletons on the middle platform, and yeah, that's really up to your imagination. How did those people die, and why are there puddles of blood underneath the skeletons? Something very disturbing or weird going on in here, that is for sure. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any ideas or recommendations for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Here we're going to be checking out the mall, which is a central location in Fallout 3, and obviously a very important place in real life, as it connects the Capitol building to the Washington Monument, to the Lincoln Memorial, and obviously the Smithsonian is also here. So yeah, it's pretty important, and Bethesda did a pretty darn good job representing the mall, considering that this game came out in 2008. Which is absolutely crazy. Now, I will be honest, I did not have a very good memory of the mall. Of course, I played Fallout 3 a long time ago, but I really didn't know what to expect, and I was really blown away by how amazing this place is. It really feels like a kind of battlefield. I love the trenches and the super mutants, the Talon Company, you have the Brotherhood of Steel, and even the Enclave. It really feels like a vital position, and it feels like there is a war going on here. So I gotta give it to Bethesda, this feels like a really amazing battlefield. And it feels really large, at least for a video game, and I have to say I kind of wish there was something like this in Fallout New Vegas because of the battle between the NCR and Caesar's Legion. We just don't really have a battlefield that is comparable to this, which is a little bit disappointing. Now, there are some trenches around Caesar's the Fort and stuff, but there is nothing like this, and I just think this is really awesome. But enough ranting, let's go ahead and jump into the location. Now in this video, we are only going to be covering the exterior portion of the mall and some of the unmarked locations like the Mirelurk nesting hole and the super mutant bunker. Of course, there's many vital locations and we'll see the exterior of those places, but we will cover those other locations in more detail in future videos. Now, I came to the mall via Pennsylvania Avenue, so I came from Penn Avenue South to the Mall Northeast Metro Station, which is right next to the National Archives building. And according to the wiki, this is actually a pretty faithful recreation of the real-life National Archives building and metro stations. Now, I've actually never been to Washington, D.C., so I have to rely a lot on the wiki regarding its realism to the real world. But yeah, the mall in the game is significantly scaled down compared to real life. But, you know, they did a pretty darn good job. Now, as we come out from around, there's a trash bin that had some Nuka-Cola in it. Not sure why. And then we can find the front entrance to the National Archives, which looks pretty badass. And then we have this bus out front. It really seems like buses were very important in the pre-war era. And then as we come out onto the main portion of the mall, we will find, well, it is a bit torn up, and there are trenches everywhere from a massive battle between the Brotherhood of Steel, Super Mutants, and the Talon Company. We can see the Washington Monument down the road, and then the Capitol building to our east. Now, as I came into the trenches, may have made a mistake because I got surrounded very quickly, but hey, it was all good and fun, except I quickly realized I fucked up. I forgot to put on my power armor.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
So after rectifying that big mistake and putting on my power armor, I was now ready to fight the Super Mutants, and I said they surrounded me. In reality, they just surrounded Dogmeat. Normally I don't show VATs like this, but I felt really bad for Dogmeat facing 3 Super Mutants, one of which was an Overlord. And then to make things worse, I shot Dogmeat and got a critical strike on him.
You shot Church, you team-killing fucktard!
But I really must extend a huge thank you to Dogmeat, because without him, this fight would be like 10 times more difficult, because the Super Mutants here were just ganging up on him, which meant I could easily shoot them from far away. However, this one Super Mutant decided to flank me, so I had to also get rid of him, while Dogmeat dealt with the Overlord, which is fine by me, because Overlords can be a bit annoying just because they have a ton of health. After that, though, I started shooting this Super Mutant, and his freaking Gatling gun went flying, and I just thought that was really funny. And since his Gatling gun did go flying, it made killing him a lot easier. He didn't really know what the heck to do. He just kind of running around in circles and just let me shoot him in the back, and then he fell backwards for some reason. So hey, now I'm not going to complain. Then I came down here and I finally helped Dogmeat kill that Overlord. Got the XP for it too, which I was a bit surprised because Dogmeat did most of the work. After that, I looted all the bodies and leveled up. So this is definitely a good place to get some XPizzle. Then I decided to just walk through the trenches a bit and make my way towards the Capitol building. As I was looking at this like lamppost, I just saw this massive battle break out in front of me. The Talon Company started this massive attack on the Super Mutants, and it was just frick-frackin' awesome. I just decided to watch it from afar and not to interfere with it, because why would I do that? Just let them kill each other. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I guess I don't really know who my friend is, because neither of them like me, but yeah, I decided to let them kill each other. However, the Talon Company started to win, so I decided to kind of like level the playing field. I took out my Fat Man, launched one mini nuke, and man, that's a lot of damage.
Now that's a lot of damage!
And even then, though, the Super Mutants had pretty much lost this fight, so I brought out my laser rifle and I started to try and even the odds, and this happened. So maybe some witchcraft going on with some of the Talon Company, but hey, he's disintegrated now, so it shouldn't be a problem anymore. And then there was one Super Mutant Overlord that had survived the fight, and then, well, he died. But we didn't get the XP for killing him. After that, I decided to loot all of the bodies. I cut that, because you don't want to see that. Then I made my way up the stairs of the Capitol building. A vertibird flew overhead, which is just a scripted event the first time you come here. And I continued my way up the stairs of the Capitol building. The Capitol building really does feel massive. It feels really good. Then over here on the northern side of it, there will be an enclave camp. So I decided to use a mini nuke. I actually had to use 2 because this first mini nuke wasn't that good. I just cleared out some of the soldiers. I really just wanted to get rid of the Death Claw because I just didn't want to deal with him. And then I used my flamer on the Hellfire Trooper, who kind of started freaking out because he lost his weapon. Man, lots of weapons being lost in this battle. After that, I could loot the Enclave camp, but truth be told, there's not a lot of loot here besides the loot you find on the bodies. Then you can get a really close-up view of a vertibird and some pretty scenic shots of the mall. Make our way around, we can find a portion of the Capitol building has kind of collapsed in, and then we can find the front entrance. And of course, we get a beautiful view down the mall towards the Washington Monument. Now, as we make our way to the southern side of the Capitol building, there is no camp. There is really nothing over here, just kind of barren, which is unfortunate. And if we go down to the ground level, there's actually a relatively large area to the south here that is just completely empty. So I don't know if Bethesda was going to originally put something over here and it just didn't make the final game or something. But yeah, I just thought I'd point it out. It's really empty, but it's quite large. And yeah, there's absolutely zero things here. No enemies, no loot, no camps, nothing. And on the north side of the Capitol building, well, it's exactly how you would expect it. There's just a giant pile of rubble that prevents you from going any further. And I also just wanted to point out, in the Super Mutants' defenses around the Capitol building, it seems like they kind of repurposed this Enclave barricade, which I just thought was a really cool small detail, just showing like the scarcity of resources and how the Super Mutants are using everything they can. Now, as we make our way down the mall, we can find the Museum of Technology, but we'll talk more about that another day. We can find Anacostia Crossing Station over here. If we make our way further down, we can find like an unmarked Super Mutant camp. There's some tires on fire, and then several gore bags that you can loot. Sometimes they might have bottle caps or ammunition inside, so you can take a look. Make our way even further down towards the Washington Monument, and there's more trenches and stuff. Now, we will explore those trenches later in the video, because that'll take us to the Super Mutant Bunker, but for now, we'll just ignore the Washington Monument, because that will be a story for another day. Then if we come over here to the northern side, we can find the Museum of History. Here we can find Willow, who is the sentry for the Museum of History. If you didn't know, there is a friendly ghoul city within the Museum of History called the Underworld. Now, she tells us some interesting things, like how the super mutants don't bother the ghouls. She doesn't really know why, but she's not about to ask questions about it. And she also has this to say, which I just thought was a bit funny.
Come on, here you are in the mall of our nation's fine capital, taking in the sights, visiting the monuments. Face it, you're a tourist.
Now, when anybody ever says you're a tourist online and like debates and stuff, I'm going to just think of that clip, face it, you're a tourist. Anyways, as we make our way to the west, we can find this Brotherhood of Steel Paladin, that's kind of on this like little watch area. And as we make our way west, we will find the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. There might be some vicious dogs here, like there were for me. I just hate fighting these dogs in Fallout 3 because of the cries they make when you attack them, but hey, I don't have a choice. Now, the reflecting pool is actually still doing its job. It's still reflecting the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument, which is, I guess, it's pretty good considering that it's probably been 200 years since it's been cleaned. It went through the nuclear apocalypse, so hey, all things considered, it's doing pretty well. And then after that, we will come to the Lincoln Memorial, but we will not be checking it out today just because it's a pretty important location. There's a lot of things going on inside. And as we come over to the western side, we can find the Mall Southwest Metro Station, those long Fallout escalators leading into the metro. Oh yeah, we're not going to focus on that for now, but this is an important landmark because it is near the Mirelurk nesting hole, which is just to the east in the broken section of the road here through that sewer. Now we're going to go in there here in a second, but I saw all of these enemies over in this corner to the southeast, so I wanted to investigate that first, and I found out it's just a bunch of rad roaches. So I'm just going to call this like Rad Roach Camp. And there are so many rad roaches, and funny enough, there are some mutilated bodies and skeletons over here, which suggests that these rad roaches have killed some unfortunate souls. So, yeah, I feel bad. That'd be one horrible death. But anyways, we will now go check out the Mirelurk nesting hole, which is right here on the world map, right next to Mall Southwest. And this place, I have to admit, is really confusing, at least it was for me. Now, immediately as you enter, I'm going to pause it because there's a fork in the road, actually. I didn't realize this. You can go left or right. It doesn't matter. They both pretty much lead to the same place. I went right, so if you want to follow me for the loot, then you can go right as well. Now, you're going to find some Mirelurks that are leveled as you make your way through, so just kill them, get rid of them. Eventually, you're going to find this dead Brahmin corpse peeking out of the corner. If we go further back, we will find a skeleton and a suitcase. That suitcase had some bobby pins for me, and there's also a first aid box. Now, as we continue down the corridor, eventually you're going to find this very large chamber, which also has like foundations of buildings in it, and you can either go straight or right. There's also going to be some Mirelurks, so I killed all of the Mirelurks. Very quickly to your left, if you look in some of these wooden boxes, you might find chems, like this wooden box here had a stim pack, so just be on the lookout for that kind of loot. After that, I decided to go to the right because that is where all the loot is, and also where I got a bit confused. But basically, as you go to the right, you can enter the next chamber via the normal path or by climbing up this ledge here like I did. There will be a dead Brahmin and also a dead mercenary, and you can loot the mercenary, of course. And in here, you can go one of two ways. For now, you can just follow me. Now, down here, you're going to be in this little corner, so after you've killed the Mirelurks, you can take a look around at some of the loot. There will be like an assault rifle down here. There's some chems in this box, like you can see. There's also going to be some ammunition boxes that you can loot, so you can take a look and see what you find. Now, as you make your way around, you'll just be actually backtracking because you'll be following the normal path, but you're going to find these like cement blocks that have collapsed from above. You want to try and jump up to the top of this ridge. It's kind of weird. You kind of have to finagle it, but at the top of the ridge, you will find a Nuka-Cola Quantum along with a skeleton and a ham radio. So perhaps this poor soul was trying to call for help or something after the nuclear apocalypse. Who really knows? But yeah, you can take that quantum. Now from here, you want to get up on this other ridge, and you cannot get on the ridge from down here, or at least I couldn't. There might be a way to do it, but the easiest way to get up there is to go back the way we came, up to where that dead Brahmin and that dead mercenary were. So we're going to go back around, go up back to where the dead Brahmin was. This time we're just going to hug the ledge instead of jumping off, and there's going to be a little cave through the back here, and then you just want to follow this cave all the way back, and then you're going to find a skeleton, a copy of the Chinese Army Special Training Ops Manual, and a stim pack and a first aid box. So not half bad. Don't know what this person was doing back here. Perhaps they were a Chinese spy, and they were trying to sabotage or something when the bombs fell. At least that's what my headcanon says. After that, we can now make our way out. So going back to that main chamber, we're going to go straight where that like building's foundation is. And this is just the other path that'll take us back to that fork in the road we saw at the beginning. And from here, we can now leave this very confusing place. And then from here, I decided to make my way back towards those trenches because there's still about a half of the trenches we haven't explored, and that would be the western half. Now, I walked by the Washington Monument and just kind of admired a lot of the details on the Washington Monument. When you're not using map exit glitches, the monument actually looks pretty darn good. Who would have guessed? Now, after that, I decided to make my way to the trenches, and there were still some super mutants hanging around down here, so I took out my flamer and I started to fight them. Again, having dog meat made this a lot easier because they quickly surrounded me, and it would have been, well, one hell of a fight if it wasn't for dog meat. So, thanks a lot, bud. Also, his weapon went flying again, too. Don't know what it was, but weapons were just going flying today. Now, as you approach the western entrance to the super mutant bunker, there will be a super mutant that has, like, the high ground on you, but thankfully for me, it was only a brute. So once we took out this overlord, I just took out my laser rifle, and I was able to kill him from far away. I actually shot his head clean off, so damn, that was a pretty good shot. The Super Mutant Overlord had a mini nuke on his body, which is pretty good. As we come to the bunker, we can find a dead Brotherhood of Steel soldier, indicating that this bunker and these trenches used to be controlled by the Brotherhood of Steel, but they have since lost the position to these super mutants. Now, as we come into like the main area of the bunker, we can find these bunk beds. There's going to be some ammunition boxes you can loot. There's going to be some first aid boxes you can loot. And most importantly, on the desk, we can find a copy of Duck and Cover. So make sure you pick up that bad boy. Now, above the desk, there is a gore bag, and inside there was 22 shotgun shells. Not too shabby. And then also there was this dummy here, which I just thought looked like a super mutant. Perhaps it was put there by the Brotherhood of Steel. And then there are 2 traps in there, so be careful. Now, as you come out on this end, be careful. There's a tripwire right there. I just crossed it, and that'll release a bouquet of grenades, which will blow up dog meat. Man, I'm really not showing my thanks towards dog meat in this video. I feel terrible. So I just hope that dog meat is satisfied with our little tour around Washington, D.C., and that, guys, pretty much covers the mall. Now, of course, there's many key locations that we didn't go in depth in this video, but I promise we will do that in the future. But man, the mall is really awesome. It is much better than I remember, and I had a lot of fun playing through this area. So I'd highly recommend to go check it out again if you haven't touched Fallout 3 in a long time, because it is a really good experience. If I had one gripe with it, it would be that there's not enough enemies, actually. I feel like if this was an actual battlefield, there would be tons of enemies on all sides, but of course I'm sure it's just limited by the technology of the time, so I'm not going to really fault Bethesda too much for that. And nonetheless, it's just a really cool experience to, well, go around the ruins of a post-apocalyptic Washington, D.C. Let me know what you guys think of the mall and any cool experiences that you have had here. I'd be very interested to know in the comment section down below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos or future locations, please post them in the comment section down below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. Here we're checking out the Hazmat disposal site L5, which is an old metro station that has collapsed into a tunnel, and it appears that the tunnel was, well, being used for some waste disposal, specifically nuclear waste, right underneath the Washington Monument, which is very typical of the Fallout universe. Why not just store nuclear material right next to national landmarks in the nation's capital? What a great idea. But let's waste no more time and let's jump on into it. Now, on the world map, we're going to be coming in from the mall, and this shows up as the Mall Southwest on the world map, right next to the Lincoln Memorial. And as we make our way down, we're going to find a typical entrance, and as we enter, it's going to say Hazmat Disposal Site, which is kind of a weird name for a metro, but yeah, most of the metro is actually caved in, and then we can find some doors that lead us to the disposal area. As you might imagine, a radioactive dump in the Fallout universe would mean there's going to be a ton of ghouls. Now, as we come down to this area, you're going to notice there's a huge hole in the wall on your right. I completely missed it. However, you can take that hole in the wall, and it'll take you to the end as well. Basically, there's two ways to go to the end, but they both loop up back together, so it doesn't really matter which way you go. And then I found this motherfucker. I hate these frickin' feral ghoul reavers. They are so freaking annoying, so I took out my fat man and just dealt with him easily. And also in here, there's a dead mercenary. There's a lot of dead NPCs in here for some reason. I don't know what in the hell possessed them to go down here with feral ghoul reavers, but yeah, I'm not surprised that they died. Anyways, we make our way down this staircase. Then we kind of find the cave section after this. There's going to be a turret above you. I recommend you shoot that turret if you want the XP. Also, because in the next room, we can activate the turrets, but the turrets will target everyone. So by getting rid of that turret, we don't have to worry about it anymore. And by activating the turret system now, which is a hard lock terminal, well, the turrets will now attack the feral ghouls in the next room. However, that turret did not stand much of a chance against those ghouls. And then as we enter the cave section, we can find a dead wastelander that had a bunch of chems on him for me, so pretty darn good. Then there was this feral ghoul, which we got rid of. And as I came into the next section of the cave, just progressing south, I found another feral ghoul reaver, so we dealt with him again with a mini nuke, so now I have to deal with that shit. At least in my opinion, the Fallout 3 Feral Ghoul Reavers win the award for the most annoying enemy in all of Fallout. Now from here you can keep going south and that will lead you to Vernon Square, or you can progress to the west where we can find that other corridor that kind of leads into that blown out wall that I showed earlier. Now do be careful as you come up into this next area because there is a gas leak and I accidentally sent it off. But yeah, it doesn't really matter that much. I just got back up before the glowing one did, and I blew him to, well, small bits. Now over here in the corner, we can find a dead wastelander. If you come here without exploding the room, it'll look like her fingers and stuff are twitching because of the gas, which looks really freaking creepy. But yeah, I detonated the gas, so I couldn't see that. Anyways, as you can see, this just comes back to where we began. So we're going to make our way back. There's another connector to the other path, like the path we started on. We can go down the middle here, and there was a feral ghoul reaver. This time I actually fought him, and it took me about 40 seconds to kill him using the A321 plasma rifle, which is about 10 seconds better than it normally takes. But yeah, we're just going to progress now to the south because, well, we've pretty much explored this entire place. And unfortunately, there's really no unique loot in here. This truly just serves as a connector between Lafont and the shopping mall, the National Mall. Anyways, there was one more ghoul. As we come to the entrance to Lafont, we can find a bed over here with some whiskey. So I decided to go ahead and take a snooze in order to get my health back up. Be careful as you come out the other side because you're going to be greeted with a lot of enemies. For me, there was some Talon Company mercs, and then some super mutants later decided to join the fight. Man, this one Talon Company merc charged me with a combat knife. Pretty dumb decision there, and then Dogmeat sent his body flying. Also, I don't know what this one merc was doing, but he was just kind of standing there while I killed his friends, so that's really kind of him. It makes my life easier. And then the super mutant ran over, I blew his head clean off, and part of it went flying all the way to the moon, which is just really bizarre, but anyways, then some more super mutants attacked. Then I could look around the area. We had a pool table over here that only has a cue ball. Sounds like a very boring game of pool. And the Nuka-Cola machine, I found a Nuka-Cola Quantum. I found 2 Nuka-Cola Quantums in the Nuka-Cola machines here, which means I am a very lucky otter. But that pretty much covers the Hazmat disposal site L5. Not a location that I remember at all, and it is pretty forgettable. Just a radioactive cave filled with feral ghouls, a very Fallout location that just serves as a basic connector between LaFont and the National Mall. Let me know if you guys have any memories of this location, any experiences. I'd be very interested to know. Of course, you might not remember it at all, which is fine as well. Either way, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you have any recommendations or ideas for future videos or future locations, please drop them in the comment section down below. And as always, until next time.